Chapter 10-11. Xiao Qin raised his eyebrows slightly. It seemed that Jia Jinyan was quite respected. All right, it's settled then. Jia Hongyong will temporarily take over the position of the mine's general manager. When the Venerable Realm opens and the collection of spiritual jades comes to an end, we will arrange the follow-up matters. Jia Jinyan directly made the decision. Understood. All the descendants in the meeting room agreed in unison. No one dared to raise any objections. Even Jia Yubian could only reluctantly lower his head. Jia Jinyan stood up and swept his majestic gaze over everyone present. After his gaze swept over Jia Muzan's group, his gaze lingered on Xiao Qin for a while. He quickly regained his composure and patted Jia Muzan's shoulder. He very kindly said, "Muzan, since you are back, go to your residence and have a good rest. The interclans tournament is about to begin. Be prepared." "All right, thank you, Grandpa. My friend and I will be leaving first." Jia Muzan nodded in thanks. He glanced at Jia Yubian and Jia Yubian before turning around and walking out of the meeting room with Xiao Qin and the others. Seeing Jia Muzan's smug expression, Jia Yubian could not help but gnash his teeth in anger. However, he could not do anything to Jia Muzan and could only watch him leave. Jia Yudo's eyes flickered as if he was thinking about something. Now that his son had another competitor, he had to think of a solution as soon as possible. After discussing a few more topics, Jia Jinyan hastily ended the meeting. He had been extremely busy these days. Whether it was the interclans tournament or the opening of the Venerable Realm, he had to personally participate in them. Therefore, he could not be bothered to stay and listen to his two sons quarrel. After giving a few simple instructions, he hurriedly left. "Weiyan, what's going on? Why is Musin still alive? Didn't I ask you to send people out as soon as possible and kill him while he is in the secular world?" Jia Yubian angrily returned to his own courtyard. After thinking about it for a while, he still could not find the right answer. He called for Jia Huoyin and harshly reprimanded him. "What? He is still alive? I thought he had died in the heavenly jade mine." Jia Huoyin was a little confused by the scolding and muttered in confusion. He had just arrived home and didn't know that Jia Muzan had already returned to the Jia clan. The speed of the flying sword was much faster than that of a car. "Nonsense. Not only is he still alive, but he even tried to intimidate me in front of that old thing, deliberately embarrassing me in front of everyone." As Jia Yu spoke, he suddenly felt that something was wrong. He asked in surprise, "What did you just say? It seems like you already knew that he went to the heavenly jade mine?" "Yeah. Didn't we issue a trial mission in the Wulin?" He suddenly appeared and brought a few people to participate in the trial. "I purposely put them in the dangerous area outside the mine, thinking that they would die there. I didn't expect. What a blunder." Jia Huoyin shook his head gloomily and sighed helplessly. "You little bastard, why didn't you tell me earlier? If I had known earlier, I would have definitely sent someone over to keep them in the mine." Recalling the scene in the conference room, Jia Yu became angrier the more he thought about it. He gritted his teeth and said, "Damn it, now even Jia Yuqin has died inexplicably. I suspect that it was that guy who killed him secretly to target me. I thought it was not a big deal, so I didn't tell you in advance. I wanted to tell you when I came back." Jia Huoyin was stunned and asked in confusion, "Jia Yuqin is dead? It can't be that little bastard who did it, right? He is just a martial general in the Great Perfection. As far as I know, Jia Yuqin is already a martial king in the Great Perfection. How could he be dead?" "How would I know?" Jia Yu glared at Jia Huoyin and scolded angrily, "You bastard, why don't you use your brain?" Jia Muzan was suppressed to run away from home. Now that he dares to come back so brazenly, he must have something to rely on. Don't be fooled by the fact that this guy is wearing glasses and looks dumb. He is definitely not a rash person. Yes, I remember now. Speaking of someone to rely on, Jia Muzan does have a martial honorable helping him. He looks like a pretty boy and his name is Xiao Qin. Jia Yuqin's death must be his doing. Jia Huoyin suddenly became alert and slapped his thigh in realization. Xiao Qin? A martial honorable helping him? Jia Yubian was incomparably shocked. He had also seen the person behind Jia Muzan just now. The only man should be Xiao Qin. He never thought that Xiao Qin would be a martial honorable at such a young age. Jia Yubian hurriedly pulled Jia Huoyin back and asked anxiously, "What's the background of that Xiao Qin? I remember that Tang Yuanxing is also a level 1 martial honorable. If they were to fight during the clan's tournament, would there be any problems?" "I don't know about Xiao Qin's background, but you don't have to worry. Tang Yuanxing has reached the peak of level 1 martial honorable not long ago. He will be able to defeat Xiao Qin easily." Jia Huoyin waved his hand disapprovingly. That's good. Jia Yubian was relieved. He thought for a while and said, I'd better go and find out about Xiao Chen's background first, and see if there is a way to kill him secretly. After all, the situation in the clan's tournament is ever-changing. It's always good to have one less opponent. At that time, Tang Yuanxing will only need to deal with Jia Tuyao's helper. After saying that, Jia Yubian ordered his subordinates to gather information, and also asked them to find out the background of Jia Tuyao's external help. In today's family meeting, Jia Yuto was way too calm, as if he was sure that he would win, which was never the case before. Although Jia Yubian seemed to be hot-tempered and straightforward, he was actually a meticulous person. He treated his son's enemies very cautiously, and would not let go of any danger. If he could kill Xiao Chen, Tang Yuanxing could focus on dealing with Jia Tuyao's helper, which would save him a lot of trouble. As for Jia Yuto, he calmly went back to his own yard, called Jia Tuyao over, closed the door and stayed in the yard for quite a few hours. As Jia Yuto had sent all the servants far away from the room, no one could hear what they were talking about until Jia Tuyao opened the door and left. Jia Yuto changed his clothes and ate his meal as usual, as if nothing had changed. After Xiao Chen and the others finished their dinner, Jia Muzin took them to the yard where he used to live. However, when he arrived at the gate, he found that the yard was brightly lit, as if someone else was living in it. Jia Muzin was surprised, pushed the gate open and walked in. However, after taking only 2 steps, he was shocked and couldn't move anymore. He almost thought that he had walked into the wrong place. He had only left for less than a year, but the layout of the yard had changed completely. Chapter 10-12. He saw that the plants and herbs he had planted in the garden had all been uprooted and replaced with many unknown gorgeous flowers and plants. The bookshelves in the room had also been moved out and thrown into the corner of the courtyard along with the books. The door of the room facing the courtyard was wide open. The place where the bookshelves had originally been was replaced by a leather sofa. A carefree young man was lying on the sofa. On the other side was a huge round bed. The light was dim and the atmosphere was hazy. It was obvious that it was used to do bad things. Jia Quanyu, it's actually you. Who allowed you to live here? Jia Muzin took large strides forward and glared at the young man. His eyes were about to spit fire as he sternly questioned. In fact, Jia Muzin didn't need to ask to know that it was definitely Jia Huoyan's doing. This Jia Quanyu was his errand boy. The core 3 generations of the Jia family were all named with metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. Jia Huoyan and Jia Tuyao were both like this. As for the other branch family members, they were given some insignificant names such as Jia Quanyu, Jia Manu, etc., to show the identity of the Jia family members and distinguish them from each other. Jia Muzin was originally a direct descendant. But because his parents died early, he had no one to help him. That was why he was pushed from the core direct descendant to an errand boy. Although his name didn't change, his treatment was not as good as before. He was always bullied and humiliated by Jia Huoyan. It was truly tragic. This courtyard was originally the place where Jia Muzin's father, Jia Yulin, lived. After the couple passed away, it was inherited to Jia Muzin. The courtyard was quite big and was in line with the standards of a direct descendant. However, after Jia Muzin left, it was directly occupied by Jia Quanyu. Jia Muzin's guess was right. Jia Quanyu had been instructed by Jia Huoyan to swagger in. Otherwise, as a branch family member, he wouldn't dare to be so bold. Jia Muzin. Jia Quanyu was lying on the sofa in a daze. He was startled by the sudden roar. He turned his head and was immediately stunned. It's me, your grandfather. Jia Muzin pulled Jia Quanyu up from the sofa and said fiercely. Although Jia Kunchu was somewhat surprised by Jia Muzin's sudden appearance, he quickly reacted and pretended to be surprised as he mocked. Oh, I really couldn't tell that our young master Musen actually dared to return home? Who was the one who offended young master Huoyan and was tortured to the point where he would rather die than live, running away with his tail between his legs like a dying dog? Now that you've come back so boldly, I really want to know who gave you such courage? Are you not afraid of being stepped on by young master Huoyan? Don't talk nonsense over there. Only the direct descendants of the Jia clan are qualified to live in this courtyard. You're just a lackey. What right do you have to be so carefree here? Get the hell out of here. Jia Muzin clenched his fists and said angrily. Ah, did I hear that right? You're really funny. Do you really think you're somebody? Jia Qingui smiled disdainfully. He stretched out his finger and poked Jia Muzin's chest, provoking him contemptuously. You said I'm a lackey? Why don't you look at yourself in the mirror? You're just a little bastard whose parents died. Even if you want to be young Master Huoyan's dog, you're not worthy. I advise you to quickly find young Master Huoyan and plead for leniency. Maybe he'll be merciful and give you a dog kennel to live in. Go f*ck yourself, you big idiot. You really think you're somebody? Jia Muzin was about to retort when Xiaoqin, who was standing at the side, could not stand it anymore. He walked in front of Jia Qingui in a few steps and raised his hand to slap him on the head without using any yuan qi. Bang! Jia Qingui was directly sent flying. A scream was stifled in his throat. After spinning 2.5 times in the air, he fell heavily to the ground. The reason why he did not use yuan qi was because Xiaoqin was afraid that he would not be able to control it well. If he was not careful, he would accidentally beat someone to death like he did to Hong Dingrui previously. Normally it was fine to beat someone to death. However, this was the Jia clan's territory. If he killed a Jia clan disciple, even if it was a branch family member, he would be in big trouble. Therefore, although Xiaoqin attacked in anger, he still held back his strength. Cough cough cough. Who the f*ck are you? You dare to hit me? Are you tired of living? Jia Qingui felt dizzy from the slap. He struggled to stand up and coughed out a few mouthfuls of blood. He covered his face and tried to put on a show of bravado. Xiaoqin clapped his hands and slowly walked towards Jia Qingui. Jia Qingui was extremely flustered and kept retreating. He accidentally tripped over the stone steps on the side of the road and fell flat on his back. He did not stand up for a long time. Didn't you ask just now who gave Jia Muzin the courage to come back? Xiaoqin walked in front of Jia Qingui and squatted down. He grabbed his collar and stretched out his hand to slap his cheek. He said coldly, I don't mind telling you. This young master is the external helper that Jia Muzin invited. Now you can go tell your dog master because it will be his turn soon. Jia Qingui's body trembled. He was suppressed by Xiaoqin's aura to the point that he could not say a word. He almost rolled his eyes. Xiaoqin released his grip and stood up. He waved his hand at Jia Muzin and said, Sorry, I lost control of my temper. I'll leave the rest to you. Jia Muzin looked at Xiaoqin gratefully. In fact, he knew that Xiaoqin was helping him out of a difficult situation. It had nothing to do with his temper. After taking a few steps forward, Jia Muzin kicked Jia Qingui out of the door. He said in a cold tone, Jia Qingui, I'll let you off today. Hurry up and scram. Don't dirty my place again or I'll kill you. Bang. The door closed. Jia Qingui struggled to get up. He stared at the closed door for a long time, but he did not dare to act again. Xiaoqin was too powerful. He was not his opponent at all. The only thing he could do now was to run to Jia Huoyan to complain and let him deal with Jia Muzin. Sorry, I've made a fool of myself in front of you. Jia Muzin shook his head helplessly as he looked at the completely changed room and courtyard. What nonsense are you saying? Everyone, let's help clean up. I haven't slept in a comfortable bed for several days. I must have a good sleep tonight. Xiaoqin patted Jia Muzin's shoulder. He smiled as he rolled up his sleeves and took the lead to clean up. That's right. Sister Saori saw that there's a guest room in the courtyard. Let's clean up the guest room as well. The Jia family is a big family. Even the bed in the guest room is comfortable to sleep in. Tian Saori said excitedly as he ran out of the door. Qing Minjing did not know whether to laugh or cry. She was afraid that Tian Saori would not be able to help and instead cause trouble. She could only bid farewell to Xiaoqin and Jia Muzin and followed them out. Chapter 10:13. Linger and Ling Qianxue stayed in the room and helped Xiaoqin to tidy up. Everyone was either a cultivator or a cultivator, so it didn't take long for the whole room to look brand new. On the other side, Jia Inu covered his face and limped to Jia Huoyan's room. He pushed open the door and ran in. Before Jia Huoyan could ask anything, he started to complain. Young Master Huoyan, you have to help me. That little bastard didn't take you seriously at all. He even dared to beat me up and even drove me out of the room. That was specially left for me by you. He was slapping you in the face. Jia Qinsu knelt on the ground with a thud and complained with tears streaming down his face. What nonsense is this? Jia Huoyan looked at Jia Inu in confusion. He didn't understand what he meant. You are a man, why are you crying like this? Quickly stand up and speak properly. What the hell happened? Young Master Huoyan, don't you know? Jia Muzin is back. Not only did he get someone to beat me up, but he also drove me out of his courtyard. You promised to give me that courtyard. Isn't he clearly going against you? Jia Kushu wiped his tears and snot and pleaded bitterly, who can tolerate this? You have to help me. Otherwise, I won't have a place to stay tonight. King deserved it. Jia Huoyan finally understood what had happened. He was so angry that he slapped Jia Inu and scolded. If he wants to stay, just give him the house. Why are you arguing with him? He brought back a venerable expert. Can you afford to offend him? Besides, it's the middle of the night. Where am I going to find someone to teach them a lesson? It wasn't that Jia Huoyan didn't want to teach Jia Muzin a lesson. However, Xiaoqin was a level 1 venerable. He couldn't beat him. He couldn't possibly run to Tang Yuanxing for help just because his lackey was injured, right? That would be too embarrassing. Then what should I do? Won't I have to sleep on the streets? Jia Inu was dumbfounded. Don't you have your own room? Go back and live there first, don't be picky. Jia Huoyan thought for a while and comforted him. Don't be too anxious. My father is already thinking of ways to deal with them. Wasn't the tournament about to begin? Once this matter was over, Jia Muzin and his helper would be dead and gone. You can go back when the time comes. All right, that's the only way. Jia Qinchu was very helpless, but he also knew how to judge the situation. Even his master was enduring silently, so how could he go up and ask for a beating? He could only agree gloomily. After bidding farewell to Jia Huoyan, Jia Kushu helplessly turned around and walked back to his shabby house. His back view was extremely miserable. It was a silent night. The next morning, Xiaoqin and the girls finished their dual cultivation and went to find Jia Muzin in high spirits to eat breakfast together. Xiaoqin was a little depressed recently. His cultivation level had been stuck at the peak of the golden core stage for a long time and he had been unable to break through to the nascent soul stage. He didn't know what the problem was. The peak of the golden core stage was the level of the venerable stage. At most, he could fight against an opponent at the peak of the first or second level of the venerable stage. This meant that his current situation was still a little dangerous. There were many martial arts experts in the inner world. For example, the Jia family's patriarch Jia Jinyan had a profound strength that he couldn't see through. If he was careless and encountered multiple venerable stage experts, it was very likely that it would be difficult for him to escape. Originally, he hoped that Elder Heaven Ancestor could give him some pointers. However, Xiaoqin tried to call out a few times, but Elder Heaven Ancestor didn't reply at all. He didn't know what he was busy with. In desperation, Xiaoqin could only give up. As Xiaoqin and the others were having breakfast, a Jia clan disciple walked over and said respectfully, "Young Master Mu Sen, please gather in the conference room after you and your external helpers have your breakfast. The Jia clan's patriarch is preparing to announce the rules and events of the upcoming clan tournament." "Alright, we'll go now." Jia Muzin nodded and tried his best to stuff food into his mouth. "Hey, wait a moment." The disciple turned around and was about to leave when Tian Saoring suddenly called out to him. "Then can Sister Saoring and the other sisters go? I've never participated in a clan's tournament before." "This?" The disciple looked troubled and didn't say anything for a moment. "Saoring, don't make things difficult for him." Xiaoqin smiled and shook his head. "You're not an external aid, why would you go? To cause trouble?" How do you know that I'm going to cause trouble?" Tian Saoer pouted, looking unhappy. Four Eyes looked so confused. What if he's tricked by someone? There's no good person in this kind of big clan. The disciple's head was almost touching the ground. He wanted to cover his ears and pretend that he didn't hear what Tian Saoring said just now. "All right, Saoring." Cheng Minjing smiled and pulled her. "Don't we have Xiaoqin here? He'll protect Jia Muzin. You don't have to worry." "That's right. This is a clan's tournament. There must be a lot of people. Let's not go and continue cultivating here." Ling blinked her eyes at Tian Saoring. Ling Qinxue also nodded gently. "Fine, I won't go. Sister Saoring doesn't care." Tian Saoring actually knew that she shouldn't go, but she was stubborn and didn't want to admit defeat. The disciple felt as if he had been pardoned. He quickly bowed and left Jia Muzin's courtyard as if he was escaping. "Menjing, let's go. You guys stay here and cultivate." Xiaoqin finished his breakfast and walked to the meeting room with Jia Muzin. Jia Muzin was silent along the way. Although he looked relaxed, he was inevitably a little nervous. "Relax and follow your heart. As long as you try your best, it's fine." Xiaoqin saw that Jia Muzin was a little strange. He patted him on the shoulder and comforted him with a smile. "Moreover, you have me as your external help." "I understand." Jia Muzin nodded and took a deep breath. He got rid of the distracting thoughts in his heart and immediately felt a lot more relaxed. However, although Xiaoqin spoke tough, he was also a little nervous. On one hand, it was because Jia Muzin was his friend. Although Jia Muzin gave him a guarantee, he was also worried that his strength was not enough. After all, he had never fought with a venerable expert. He didn't know if he could win just by relying on the one-sided words of the Elder Heaven Ancestor. On the other hand, the Jia clan was an important entry point for Xiaoqin to find his father. Therefore he must not fail. Otherwise, even if he was lucky enough to survive the competition without the rights of the young master, it would be difficult to find out the whereabouts of his father in the future. Naturally, there would be a certain amount of psychological pressure. After taking a deep breath, Xiaoqin followed Jia Muzhen and pushed open the door of the meeting room. Chapter 10:14. Jia Muzhen discovered that everyone else had arrived, but he was the last to arrive. He felt a bit embarrassed and humbly apologized to Jia Jinyan. Then he silently stood to the side. Since everyone is here, I will briefly say a few words about the family competition that will start tomorrow. Jia Jinyan glanced at Jia Muzhen and slightly nodded. He didn't blame him and signaled him to quickly find a place to sit. At this time there were already many people in the conference room. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, Jia Muzhen embarrassedly found 2 seats at the back and sat down with Xiaoqin. Jia Huiyan hatefully glared at Jia Muzhen. Beside him, aside from Jia Yubian, there was also a man with a gloomy face and a sharp nose like an eagle's hook. Presumably, this man was the external helper of the Tang family. On the other hand, Jia Tuyao and Jia Yuto were looking straight ahead, as if they didn't see Jia Muzhen at all. Sitting next to them was a middle-aged man who had his head lowered and didn't say a word. His side profile looked ordinary without any special features. Ordinary people would forget his face after taking a glance at him. There were many people sitting or standing in the conference room. Basically, they were all collateral descendants of the family. Among them, Jia Tsugu had 2 big dark circles under his eyes, and he looked at Jia Muzhen with resentment. Seeing that Jia Muzhen had already sat down, Jia Jinyan looked around the conference room and said in a deep voice, "From tomorrow onwards, the Jia family's family competition will officially start. The whole competition will be divided into 3 rounds, and all of them will be based on the point system. The direct descendant who wins will get 1 point, and the loser will not get any points. The points of the 3 rounds will be added up, and the direct descendant who gets the highest points will become the next successor of the family. The loser will automatically become the next elder." Jia Jinyan unhurriedly took a sip of tea and continued, "In addition, in this competition, the collateral descendants can also participate in challenges. If they win, they will get elder points. The point system is the same as the direct descendants, and the one who gets the highest points will also become the next elder. In this competition, a total of 1 successor of the family and 3 successors of the elders will be selected. Do you all understand?" Everyone present nodded to show that they understood. However, to Jia Jinyan's surprise, someone suddenly raised his right hand, indicating that he had something to say. That person was Jia Huiyan. He stared fiercely at Jia Muzhen, then raised his hand with a dissatisfied look. "Huiyan, what question do you have?" Jia Jinyan was slightly stunned and asked. Could it be that he didn't understand such a simple competition system? "Grandpa, I want to know if a direct descendant who leaves the family without permission, can he still be counted as a member of the Jia family? Is he still qualified to participate in the family competition?" As soon as Jia Huiyan opened his mouth, he pointed the spearhead at Jia Muzhen. He hoped to use this reason to disqualify Jia Muzhen from the competition. If this move succeeded, he would have 1 less opponent, and his chances of becoming the successor would be greatly increased. Jia Jinyan instantly understood Jia Huiyan's intention. He looked at the 2 of them with a profound look in his eyes and said without any hesitation, "As long as his surname is Jia, and the blood of the Jia clan flows in his body, he is naturally a member of the Jia clan. Furthermore, he is qualified to participate in the tournament." Jia Jinyan was not deliberately biased towards Jia Muzhen. He also wanted to select the most outstanding person so that he could be at ease in handing over the family. At that time, Jia Muzhen had left in anger. In fact, Jia Jinyan was a little disappointed. Now that he had returned proudly, he naturally had a strong enough trump card. Since that was the case, why not give him a chance? "Huiyan, do you have any other questions?" Jia Jinyan asked kindly. "This is all." Jia Huiyan clenched his fists and answered unwillingly. Since his grandfather had agreed, then there was no point in pestering him anymore. Otherwise, it would not be good to annoy his grandfather and leave a bad impression. Jia Yuto and Jia Tuyao both threw a scornful glance at Jia Huiyan, then grinned at each other, feeling that Jia Huiyan was a complete idiot. He simply wouldn't ask such a stupid question. If Jia Jinyan didn't agree to Jia Muzhen's participation, then he would have already issued an order to Jia Muzhen. How could a clown like Jia Huiyan stand up and protest today? Then I will continue. If you have any questions, go through them in your mind. Think about it carefully, then raise your hand and speak. Jia Jinyan was obviously also dissatisfied, so he specifically pointed out this sentence. Jia Huiyan's face turned red and then white. He stared at Jia Muzin with eyes that were almost green. He pushed all the blame to Jia Muzin. If Jia Muzin didn't suddenly come back, my grandfather wouldn't have criticized me. Jia Jinyan continued blandly, the contents of the 3 competitions are different, and the abilities tested are also different. The specific rules and conditions for winning will be announced before the competition. You need to note that the first 2 competitions can be participated together with external help. In the 3rd competition, the external help can't interfere. Otherwise, it will be regarded as a forfeit. Everyone nodded and took note of it in their hearts. Many of them began to guess what kind of test there would be and what kind of competition they would be good at to obtain points in. Ahem. After everyone discussed for a while, Jia Jinyan cleared his throat, and the conference room immediately quieted down. Jia Jinyan took out a name list from his bosom, lowered his head and read, "Next I will announce the name list of the participants. The direct descendants are Jia Huoyin, Jia Tuyao, and Jia Muzin. The collateral descendants are Jia Renzhong, Jia Gaoqi, Jia Shoshi, Jia Shirlei, and Jia Raijing. The above descendants and your external help will depart from the Jia family tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock and head to the Heavenly Jade Mine. The competition will begin at 8 o'clock sharp. The specific details of each competition will be announced before the competition begins. Do you all understand?" "Understood." The people whose names were called responded in unison. "Good, this family meeting will end here. You all can go back and rest. Rest up and prepare for the upcoming competition. I look forward to your good performance." Jia Jinyan put away the name list, nodded, stood up, and announced the adjournment of the meeting. Then he left the conference room alone. Jia Yubian and Jia Huoyin also stood up and looked at Jia Muzin with ridicule. Their pitiful eyes clearly regarded him as a dead man. Then they swaggered out. Their external help with a hooked nose also left. Jia Kuanggu also followed suit and glared at Jia Muzin, before chasing after Jia Huoyin. "Muzin, wait a moment." Jia Muzin pretended to turn a blind eye and was about to leave with Xiao Chen. Suddenly he heard someone call him from behind. He turned around and saw that it was Jia Tuyao. "I heard that you found a very powerful external help. No wonder you dare to come back and participate in the competition," Jia Tuyao said as he walked over. With a smile that made people feel as if they were bathing in the spring breeze, he said, "What? Won't you introduce me? Look at you, you still treat me as an outsider, ha." Chapter 10-15. "Oh, this is Xiao Chen. He's my classmate at Lanqing University." Jia Muzin couldn't figure out what Jia Tuyao was trying to do, so he could only point at Xiao Chen and make a simple introduction. "Nice to meet you, I am Jia Muzin's cousin Jia Tuyao. Brother Xiao, may I know which martial school you are from? Who did you learn from?" Jia Tuyao still smiled innocently, then reached out his hand enthusiastically, wanting to shake hands with Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen didn't refuse but shook hands with Jia Tuyao casually. He knew that Jia Tuyao wanted to know more about him, so he didn't care and said blandly, "Oh, Brother Jia, you flatter me. I am just an unknown individual cultivator in the secular world, not a martial artist. Sorry to disappoint you." "I see." Jia Tuyao was a little surprised. He didn't expect that Xiao Chen was from the secular world. But soon he changed his mind. He thought that Xiao Chen must be lying and didn't want to tell him the truth. How could there be high-level cultivators in the secular world? Wasn't this nonsense? Therefore he said calmly, "Brother Xiao, you are too modest. As far as I know, Jia Huoyin's helper has reached the peak of the first level of the Venerable Realm. It seems that you are not weak either. Otherwise, you wouldn't have taken such a big risk to help Mu Senator, am I right?" "Brother Jia, you flatter me. With my low strength, I can only rank 2nd in the world. I don't dare to guarantee other things, but it won't be a problem for me to help Mu Senior," Xiao Chen shrugged and said lightly. "Ah, I didn't know that Brother Xiao was so humorous. Since you are the 2nd in the world, who is the 1st in the world?" Jia Tuyao let out a couple of laughs, but in his heart, he had already cursed Xiao Chen's ancestors over and over again. This guy was too arrogant. The 2nd in the world? I think you can be ranked 2nd in the world. You are so stupid. Do you still need to ask? Of course, the 1st in the world is my master. He can casually move his fingers, not to mention the internal martial arts world. I guess the entire Milky Way will be turned upside down," Xiao Chen said as if it was a matter of course. "Ah, since Brother Xiao has said so, I'll have to wait and see. Don't let me down." Jia Tuyao finally couldn't keep the friendly expression on his face anymore. He forced a smile and said, Originally he planned to look for Jia Muzin to work together and kill Jia Huoyin first. However, after witnessing Xiao Chen's prodigy, he decisively dispelled this thought. Of course, Jia Tuyao didn't have good intentions. He wanted to stand on the same side as Jia Muzin. He just thought that he should buy some people's hearts first, and after he got rid of Jia Huoyin, it would be much easier for him to deal with Jia Muzin. Okay, I see you again tomorrow. Xiaochen I Tianhua I Chen Yu I Jiayu Yao I Tian I Chen Yu and Tian Yu Am Chen Yu Tian Yu Xiaochen Yu Xiao Xiao Chen Chen Jia Xiaochen, Xiao Chen Jia Xiao Yao Chen Jia Yao. Tuyao, how is it going? Have you found out anything about that guy? Jia Yuto asked in a low voice when Jia Tuyao walked up to him. That guy is called Xiaochen. He said that he is from the secular world, and he doesn't admit that he has a master or a sect. I think he is just an idiot, crazy, and doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. He is completely useless. Jia Tuyao curled his lips disdainfully. Don't jump to conclusions. Since he is able to participate in the family competition, he is definitely not easy to deal with. Later, I will ask other sects to see if anyone knows that guy surnamed Xiao. Jia Yuto frowned and said with a slight reproach. Father, thank you for your advice. I understand. Jia Tuyao nodded. Suddenly, he thought of something. Seeing that there were only 3 of them in the meeting room, he said carefully, Father, since we are going to the Heaven Jade Mine tomorrow, we are going to collect spirit jades, right? This competition seems to be a bit disadvantageous for us. First of all, we don't have any resources, and we are not familiar with the environment of the mine. It seems a bit difficult for us to get the first place. Don't worry, I have already planned it. Jia Yuto said with an evil smile on his face. Tomorrow you find a place to relax. When the time is almost up, ask Bai Songyan to go and directly rob their spirit jades. Anyway, the family leader didn't say that we can't rob others. Originally, Jia Yuto thought that since Jia Yuqian was dead, he could ask one of his subordinates to replace Jia Yuqian and provide spirit jades to Jia Tuyao in the name of discussion. Unfortunately, due to a strange combination of factors, he failed, so he had to think of another way to rob. That's a good idea. At that time, we can rob Jia Huoyin's spirit jades first, then we can rob Jia Muzin's spirit jades as well. That way we will definitely get the first place. Jia Tuyao clapped his hands excitedly. Is it a good idea to rob them directly? What if they find out? Bai Songyan was Jia Tuyao's external help. At this moment he looked a bit hesitant. He was just an external help. If he got into a conflict with other families because of robbing, he might not be able to explain it to them when he returned. Don't worry when you rob with your face covered, who can recognize you? Jia Yuto waved his hand and said carelessly, just do whatever you want. As long as you can help Tuyao become the family leader, you will definitely get lots of benefits. Jia Tuyao added with an evil smile on his face, besides, you look so ordinary, no one can find you in a pile of people. Even if you are found, they won't remember your face and won't know who you are. Okay, I'll do as you say. Bai Songyan thought for a while and felt that what Jia Yuto said was reasonable, so he agreed without hesitation. The next day at 8 o'clock in the morning, all the participants gathered outside the Heaven Jade Mine on time. Jia Jinyan announced that the competition was indeed to collect spirit jades. After everyone's mining tools were distributed, Jia Jinyan pointed at the tables and chairs by the door, saying that this was a collection point, and everyone could come back at any time to pay the spirit jades and record the result. The competition would end at 6 o'clock in the evening, and the spirit jades would be counted by caddies, and 1 point for every caddy. After everyone understood the rules, following Jia Jinyan's order, everyone rushed into the mine with their equipment and rations, and started the first round of the competition. Jia Huoyin took the lead and entered the mine. He seemed to be quite confident that he could win, as he took Tang Yuanxing and ran towards the west without even looking back. Behind him, Jia Kushi and another disciple of a branch family followed him. Jia Tuyao and Jia Muzin walked into the mine at the same time. Seeing Jia Huoyin walking towards the west, they glanced at each other, both were a bit confused. However, Jia Tuyao didn't hesitate either. He took Bai Songyan and the other 2 disciples of a branch family and directly turned around and walked towards the northwest. Chapter 10:16. In the end, there was only one collateral descendant left. He looked left and right, then chose to leave by himself. Seeing that the crowd couldn't wait to leave in the blink of an eye, only Jia Muzin and Xiao Chen were left at the gate. Xiao Chen looked at the direction where Jia Tuyao and Jia Huoyin left and wondered, what's going on? I remember that's not the location of the main mining area. These 2 idiots actually went in that direction and they even brought so many people with them. Could it be that they are plotting something? I forgot to tell you before. Among the 5 collateral descendants who are participating in the competition, 4 of them have their own factions. Among them, Jia Kushi and Jia Sholuo are Jia Huoyan's henchmen, while Jia Shirlei and Jia Raijing are Jia Tiao's followers. That's why they are following their own master. Jia Muzin explained and said, as for what they are plotting, I don't know. Jia Kushi, Jia Shirlei? Aha, I say, the names of your family are really interesting. Except for Huoyan, the rest are all triplets. If they were punished to write their names 100 times, they probably wouldn't be able to finish writing until dawn. Xiao Qin joked with a smile. In fact, when Jia Huoyan was a child he also used triplets, but I don't know why he changed it later. Maybe he wanted to show that he is different from others. Jia Muzin shrugged. TSK, your family head is really ahead of the times. He knows that important things should be said 3 times, so after saying one word he repeated it 3 times and then folded it into one word. Xiao Qin had a look of worship on his face. Alright, don't make fun of us. Jia Muzin smiled bitterly. Then, the person who just left should be the remaining collateral descendant? What's his name? Why doesn't he belong to any faction? Xiao Qin turned his head to look at the other side and asked in surprise. Oh, that person is called Jia Renzhong, the deputy manager of the mine. Currently he is the nephew of the acting manager Jia Hongyong. Usually he is quite a loner and he doesn't seem to have any relationship with anyone. Jia Muzin casually replied. The nephew of the manager can also participate in the competition? Is he also a collateral descendant of the Jia clan? Xiao Qin was a little surprised. Yes, his parents are also from the same family, but their relationship is a little distant. He can be considered as my cousin. Jia Muzin nodded his head and said with a slight sigh, unfortunately, when Jia Renzhong was still young, both of his parents passed away due to illness. Since then he has always been ostracized by those branch family members. Therefore he often follows Jia Hongyong. I'm usually busy with cultivation, so I can't be considered familiar with him. So that's how it is. Xiao Qin looked in the direction that Jia Renzhong had left. His eyes flashed as if he was thinking about something. He's quite similar to you, let's not talk about others. Let's hurry up and think about the match. Jia Muzin's face collapsed as he said with a headache, I don't think we have any chance of winning this match. How did he get so many spiritual jades in such a short time? Even if he dug until the sky turned dark, it would still be useless. Moreover, the shallow layer of the main mining area has already been excavated. Where are we going to dig? That's a big problem. What's so difficult about that? Xiao Qin smiled and patted Jia Muzin's shoulder. He reminded him, did you forget that there were still a lot of spiritual jades in the cave of the giant demon spider last time? We just have to dig out the rest of the stock and it should be enough. That's right. How could I forget about this? Come, let's hurry up and dig. Jia Muzin slapped his forehead and couldn't wait to run in a certain direction. After running for 2 steps, he stopped and turned his head to look at Xiao Qin, who was standing at the same spot. That seems a little far. The 2 of them were now at the entrance of the Jia clan's heavenly jade mine. It was not the entrance at the periphery of the mine. The distance between the 2 sides was very far, and it was estimated that they wouldn't be able to reach it even if they ran until the sky turned dark. Xiao Qin shook his head and smiled. He pulled Jia Muzin forward until the people stationed at the entrance of the mine couldn't see them. Then he took out his flying sword. The 2 of them soared into the sky and flew in the direction of the demon spider's cave. Quickly arriving at the cave, the 2 of them began to dig out the spiritual jades without stopping. Jia Muzin tried his best to win, while Xiao Qin was full of energy. Yesterday he had cultivated for a whole night. For today's competition he had even stopped fighting with Ling Er and Ling Qianxue, and was teased by Tian Suruan. Today the girls stayed at the Jia clan obediently and didn't come to make trouble. Jia Muzin's courtyard was a symbol of his status as a direct disciple. Generally no one would come to harass him, so his safety could be guaranteed. Xiao Qin told Qing Minjing to take care of the remaining 3 little sisters and to call him if anything happened. After digging hard for the whole morning, the 2 of them indeed got out a lot of spiritual jades. After counting them carefully, they found that there were 65 pieces, which had been piled up into a small mound. The 2 of them thought that since it was too far from the storage point, they couldn't go back and forth on foot. They could only rely on flying swords to transport the spiritual jades. Therefore they should first wrap up these spiritual jades and send them back so that they wouldn't be able to transport them in time. Without hesitation the 2 of them immediately emptied the things in their bags and put all the spiritual jades into them. Then they stepped on their flying swords and flew toward the storage point outside the gate of the heavenly jade mine. When they arrived at the forest near the gate, Xiaochen pressed down on his flying swords. The two of them carried their bags and came out of the forest, walking toward the storage point. Unexpectedly, Jia Huoyan was already waiting outside the gate. He was leisurely chatting with others when he suddenly saw Jia Muzhen and Ling Qianxue coming out with 2 bags full of spiritual jades. Immediately, his expression changed and he found it hard to believe. Dong. Dong. Jia Muzhen and Xiaochen walked to the front of the storage table and put down their bags, making 2 heavy sounds. The staff in charge of counting immediately opened the bags and began to count. Jia Muzhen currently has 65 spiritual jades. Not long after, the staff reported the number of spiritual jades. Jia Jinyan's eyes flashed and he smiled at Jia Muzhen. He nodded and recorded it on the list. "Oh, aren't we going to weigh them?" Jia Muzhen asked with a little doubt. "First, record the number. Finally, after the end of the competition, we will weigh them." The staff replied with a smile. "Oh, not bad. Did you two get lucky? You actually dug up so many spiritual jades." Jia Huoyan's originally surprised expression immediately relaxed after hearing the number. He sarcastically said from the side. Jia Muzhen coldly looked at him and didn't reply. Instead, he continued to pack up his bags. Jia Huoyan didn't plan to let him go just like that. He continued to ridicule him with a smile that wasn't a smile. However, compared to the spiritual jades this young master has obtained, it is still far from enough. You two hard-working miners continue to work hard. There are still many spiritual jades inside waiting for you to excavate. Ah. Chapter 10:17. When Jia Muzhen heard Jia Huoyan's mockery, he subconsciously looked at the registration form. He discovered that Jia Huoyan's column in front of him had 67 written on it. You dug out 67 pieces of spiritual jades? Jia Muzhen was very shocked. He and Xiaochen had been busy for an entire morning. They had turned the entire cave upside down, and they had only found 65 pieces of spiritual jade. This Jia Huoyan seemed to have arrived a long time ago and he actually had 2 more than them. It's just 2 more pieces. Why are you so cocky? Xiaochen looked at Jia Huoyan in disdain. I can find 2 pieces just by looking around on the ground. Have you become stupid from exhaustion? What do you know? The best is yet to come. Jia Huoyan proudly shook his head. He raised his nose and said, Didn't you guys notice that I'm missing a person? Isn't it just missing a foreign aide? I think he died of exhaustion on the road. Xiaochen rolled his eyes. Jia Huoyan stood there alone. He didn't know what kind of intelligence he was showing off. Diske, I don't mind telling you. My foreign aide is still digging out spiritual jades. I estimate there's still about 100 pieces. Jia Huoyan proudly said, All right, I can't be bothered to chat with you idiots. I'll go and help him. You guys can continue to stare blankly here. In any case, the first place doesn't have much to do with you guys. Oh, it's only 100 pieces and you're already so cocky. You really don't have any future prospects. I forgot to tell you. Actually, we also have a few hundred pieces that we haven't dug out. These 65 pieces are only a part of it. As soon as Jia Huoyan's voice fell, Xiaochen immediately retorted. Ah. Continue pretending. You two trash, if you can really beat this young master, then I'll eat all the spiritual jades that you took out. Jia Huoyan looked up to the sky and laughed. He snorted at Xiaochen's words. He felt that this guy was simply putting up a front. What few hundred pieces of spiritual jades? If he could really take them out, why would he be standing there in a daze? 65 was probably their limit. Oh, that's what you said. If you can't eat it, I'll stuff it into your ass. Xiaochen sneered. Jia Huoyan was startled for a moment, then immediately determined that he was still bluffing and wanted to scare him. He waved his hand disapprovingly and said, You can continue to stand here and brag, this young master is leaving. After saying that, he turned around and left. Xiaochen disapprovingly curled his lips and winked at Jia Muzhen. Muzhen, let's go and take out the rest of the spirit jades. All right, buy a bottle of ketchup or chili sauce. Don't let young Master Huoyan think the taste is too bland and shamelessly say that he can't eat it. Jia Muzhen stared blankly for a moment before gritting his teeth and nodding his head. He then followed Xiaochen into the mine and walked towards the forest they had come from. Along the way, neither of them spoke. It was only after they had walked a few hundred meters and entered the forest that Jia Muzhen turned to Xiaochen and said, Forget it, Xiaochen. Let's admit defeat this time. Where are we going to get a few hundred pieces of spirit jades in just half a day? Don't worry, there are still 2 more matches, we still have a chance. Why are you so pessimistic? Xiaochen did not have Jia Muzhen's dispirited feeling at all. He very naturally said, Why don't we go to the main mining area to get the spirit jades? Main mining area? Jia Muzin did not react for a moment and asked in surprise, how can there be spirit jades in the main mining area? The surface layer has already been mined out by the miners. The deeper layer is very difficult to find, even more troublesome than the demon spider cave. Why do we have to mine it ourselves? Xiao Qin analyzed with a smile. Didn't that Jia Hongyong fawn over you? Let's go directly to him. Although we might not get a few hundred pieces, it doesn't matter how much we get. We won't lose so badly, don't you think so? He probably won't agree, right? After all, those are the Jia family's resources. Without the family head's order, he can't arbitrarily transfer them. Jia Muzin repeatedly waved his hand. Otherwise, if someone accidentally finds out, he will definitely be expelled from the Jia family. Jia Muzin did not want to cause Jia Hongyong to bear the family law just because he wanted to fight for the successor. This was not his style of doing things. Why are you so stubborn? If you can win the match, you can smoothly become the family head. Then how can he be considered as arbitrarily transferring? It should be considered as having been authorized by the family head to use the spirit jades. Xiao Qin patiently guided him. Jia Muzin was stunned. It sounded like what he said was very reasonable. I was actually speechless, but I still felt that something was not quite right. Xiao Qin simply took out his flying sword and directly pulled Jia Muzin onto it. He hurriedly said, "There's no time to lose, let's set off now." Wait. Before Jia Muzin could refuse, Xiao Qin rode the flying sword and soared into the sky. With a whoosh sound, it broke through the air in the direction of the main mining area. Jia Huoyin had just walked a few steps when he wanted to look back to see if Jia Muzin and the others had already left. He found that only Jia Jinyan and the stocktaker were left at the entrance of the mining area. Feeling bored, he touched his nose and turned his head. At the moment he turned his head, he suddenly saw a flash of light in the sky. He could not help but exclaim, "Holy crap! I can actually see a meteor in broad daylight." The flying sword, which was mistaken for a meteor, quickly disappeared into the distance. Jia Huoyin was puzzled when his phone suddenly rang. He took it out and looked at the number. Seeing that it was one of his people, he pressed the answer button. "Hello, where are you? What are you dawdling about?" "Young Master Huoyin, Hand Puppet and I are already on the way. You should first find a place to rest for a while. I estimate that we will arrive in less than half an hour." On the other end of the phone, Jia Jinyu's flattering voice was heard. "Got it. Then when you are about to reach the main gate, give me a call. I will find a place nearby to sleep for a while." Jia Huoyin hung up the phone and found a shady place where Jia Jinyan could not see. He brushed off the dust and lay down. He stretched his body comfortably and closed his eyes. Not long after, he fell asleep. Jia Jinyu put away his phone and said to Jia Jinyu, "Our young Master Huoyin is still the best. He quietly organized so many people to dig for spiritual jades and surpassed others in minutes. It seems that we followed the right person." Jia Jinyu pushed the cart with both hands and said proudly, "Isn't that so? Those fools who came to participate in the trial were also very easy to deceive. We just gave them some benefits and they got the spiritual jades. They were even grateful to us. I think that the successor of the patriarch this time is none other than young Master Huoyin." Jia Jinyu looked at the 3 bulging bags on the cart and sighed sincerely, "Of course. You say, how can young Master Huoyin's brain be so flexible? He can actually think of a way to make people from outside the Wulin do the trial task. Unlike Jia Tuyao and Jia Muzin, these 2 idiots who are still diligently digging for spiritual jades." Chapter 10:18. "You 2 little bastards, stop right there." Jia Sholing was about to say something when a familiar voice suddenly came from behind them. The 2 of them quivered and hurriedly turned around. They saw Jia Tuyao standing not too far away from them, with his arms crossed and a pair of cold eyes staring at them. Beside him was Bai Song Yin, who was his helper. Both of them were so scared that their legs softened and they nearly kneeled down. Jia Tuyao coldly stared at them and asked word by word, "Who did you just call an idiot? And what's with these spirit jades?" "Young Master Tuyao, why are you here?" Jia Kuchu was the first one to react. He asked with a humble and cautious look. Jia Tuyao knitted his eyebrows and said in a deep voice, "Don't say those useless things. I asked you a question, are you deaf or something? Do you want me to repeat myself? Or cut off your ears to see if they're damaged?" No. This has nothing to do with us. Young Master Huoyin asked us to." Hearing Jia Tuyao say that he wanted to cut off his ears, Jia Sholing quivered in fear. He was about to tell Jia Huoyan's whole plan to Jia Tuyao, but Jia Kechu stealthily pulled his arm and stopped in time. Young Master Tuyao, we dug out these spirit jades for young Master Huoyan. We all voluntarily gave up the game and took these spirit jades to help young Master Huoyan. We didn't violate the rules of the game. Jia Kechu hesitated for a second, then forced a smile and said, when we said that idiot, we were talking about ourselves. Before Jia Kunchu could finish his sentence, he saw a slap coming towards him from afar. In an instant it covered his face. Ah! Jia Kunchu screamed out and was sent flying away. He thudded heavily on the ground and vomited a mouthful of blood. Damn it, are you stupid or do you think I'm stupid? How dare you lie through your teeth? Jia Tuyao took a few steps forward, fiercely spat on Jia Kechu's face, then turned around and glared at Jia Sholing. Jia Tuyao was so scared that he nearly peed his pants. Before, Jia Tuyao had always been a kind, gentle and well-mannered man in the family, but now, he had actually shown such a hideous face. The strong contrast between Jia Tuyao and Jia Tuyao made Jia Tuyao feel cold from head to toe. Jia Tuyao didn't know what was on Jia Sholuo's mind. He impatiently pointed his finger at Jia Sholuo and threatened, hurry up and tell me or I will kill you. Then you'll go to grandfather and complain about it. Not only will you not die unjustly but your entire family will also die. Young Master Tuyao, this was all ordered by young Master Huoyan, it has nothing to do with us. Here's the thing. Jia Sholuo told Ji Hao everything in detail with a sobbing tone. As it turned out, the trial mission that brought Jia Muzhen, Shao Qin, and the others into the inner martial arts world was organized by Jia Yubian and Jia Huoyan. As an elder of the family, Jia Yubian had learned about the contents of the family competition in advance through various channels. Therefore he organized this trial mission, which involved collecting spirit jades, in order to take all the spirit jades dug out by those cultivators from the outer martial arts world and the secular world, and take them as his own. Because he was the one who had the final say in the Heaven Jade mine, no one would doubt him, and Jia Huoyan could also prepare enough spirit jades in advance. However, what was out of Jia Huoyan's expectation was that the weight of the spirit jades was not the number of pieces, but it didn't make any difference to Jia Huoyan. After all, he had the most pieces and the weight would definitely be far ahead of the others. Jia Yubian had vaguely guessed the contents of the trial mission. Therefore, after Jia Yuqian died in a strange way, he tried every possible way to occupy the mine and gain resources. Unfortunately, because of Jia Muzhen's appearance, his plan failed, and he had to give up on this way. I was wondering how you could get so many spirit jades, it turns out that you all relied on such despicable means. Jia Tuyao's tone was filled with righteous indignation, but his eyes were filled with greed as he looked at the pile of spirit jades on the cart. Young Master Tuyao, we were just following young Master Huoyan's orders, we couldn't do anything about it. Jia Sholing mumbled with a bitter face. He was the most timid one among all the collateral disciples of the Jia family. Anyone who wanted to get the things in his hands could easily get it as long as they scared him a little. Jia Tuyao wasn't too interested in bullying a weak chicken. He waved his hand and said, all right, since you are willing to tell the truth, I will spare your lowly lives today. Leave all these spirit jades, then get the hell out of here. This. Jia Sholing glanced at the cart, then glanced at Jia Tuyao with a hesitant look on his face. Young Master Huoyan wants these spirit jades. If young Master Tuyao takes them away, will I be criticized? What? Are your ears damaged? Do you want me to cut them off and check them for you? Jia Tuyao's face darkened as he saw that Jia Sholing didn't want to leave, and said in a gloomy tone. No need. Thank you, young Master Tuyao. We are leaving now, we are leaving now. Jia Sholing trembled once again, shook his head, thanked Jia Tuyao, and hurriedly held Jia Kunchu up from the ground, then dragged him and staggered away. After Jia Tuyao and Jia Tuyao disappeared in the distance, Jia Tuyao's gloomy face turned bright again, and he happily started checking the spirit jades in the cart. At this moment he was so happy. This time he had not only caught Jia Huoyan's weakness, but also obtained so many spirit jades. It seemed that he didn't need to rob Jia Muzhen anymore. That Tunpo and that arrogant fool didn't have any resources, so they wouldn't be able to get so many spirit jades. As long as he pushed this cart of spirit jades back, it would be enough for him to complete his mission. Tuyao, just now we didn't wear masks and rob Jia Huoyan's subordinate, isn't that a bit inappropriate? What if he goes to the head of the family to complain about us? Will we be disqualified? Seeing that Jia Tuyao had finished checking the spirit jades and was excitedly pulling the cart by himself, Bai Songyan immediately walked over to help, but still asked worriedly. Would he dare? Jia Tuyao curled his lips disdainfully and said, He got these spirit jades by duping others. Unless he's an idiot and wants to be punished on purpose, he will definitely keep his mouth shut. Originally, Jia Tuya was supposed to wear a mask, but when he was hiding in the rear, he noticed that there was something wrong with the conversation between Jia Kunchu and Jia Sholing, therefore he decided to just rob them. Bai Songyan was suddenly enlightened, and a relieved smile appeared on his face. You're right, it seems that we will definitely win this round. Jia Tuyao nodded and said, let's go find Jia Shirlei and Jia Raijing first, then calculate the number of spirit jades we've collected, then we can go and get our points. After that, the two stopped chatting and focused on pulling the cart, heading towards the pre-agreed place. Jia Huoyin slept under the shade of a tree for a few hours. The sunlight peeking through the leaves had gradually turned to the west, and in the blink of an eye, it was nearly 6 o'clock in the evening, but Jia Kunchu and Jia Sholing were still nowhere to be seen. Chapter 10:19. Jia Huoyin, whose back was aching from sleeping, was a little impatient. He took out his phone and was about to give them a call when a figure suddenly appeared beside him, giving him a big fright. Only after taking a closer look did he realize that it was Tang Yuanxing. Huoyin, I've got the rest of the spirit jades, a total of 78 pieces. Tang Yuanxing carried the two backpacks very easily. He looked around and asked in confusion, why aren't those two brats here yet? Logically speaking, they should be here by now, right? Could they have encountered some trouble? Tang Yuanxing vaguely felt that something was wrong. There were quite a number of ferocious beasts hiding in the periphery of the mine. Could these two fellows have been killed by the beasts? F***CK. You scared me to death. Jia Huoyin patted the dust off his body. He was also a little puzzled. He scratched his chin and said, that shouldn't be. The route I gave them is very safe. There shouldn't be too many problems. Could it be? Young Master Huoyin, big brother Yuanxing, quickly come and save us. Jia Huoyin had not finished speaking when they suddenly heard a heart-wrenching cry for help not far away. Both of them were startled and looked towards the direction of the voice. They saw Jia Kugu and Jia Shoulei madly running towards them with a terrified look on their faces. Their clothes were torn to shreds, and there were many wounds on their bodies that were constantly bleeding. Behind them was a 2-meter-long reptile. Disgusting mucus flowed from the corner of its mouth. It roared non-stop and waved its claws at Jia Kuangu and Jia Shoulei. It was obviously the culprit who had attacked them. What the F***CK, why is there a stone-throat lizard? Jia Huoyin frowned, but he still rushed over with Tang Yuanxing. Circulating their mental cultivation method, they joined hands and slapped at the stone-throat lizard. Boom! 2 fierce palm winds exploded on the back of the stone-throat lizard, causing a cloud of smoke to rise. When the smoke dissipated, they saw that there was an additional wound on the back of the stone-throat lizard, but the rest of the body was still intact. The stone-throat lizard felt the attack and paused. With a hiss, it turned around and rushed towards where Jia Huoyin was standing. What's going on? Why can't I kill it? Tang Yuanxing was stunned. Although he didn't use his full strength in that palm strike just now, it still contained 70 to 80% of his strength. He originally thought that the stone-throat lizard would be torn into pieces, but who would have thought that it was still alive and well? The carapace of the rock-throat lizard is extremely hard, and the part that is touched by its saliva will be petrified for a minute. Its only weakness is its mouth, so I can only wait for the moment it opens its mouth. Damn. As Jia Huoyin was explaining, the stone-throat lizard had already rushed in front of him. It opened its mouth and quickly spat out its sticky tongue, instantly wrapping around his right hand. Unable to break free for a while, Jia Huoyin felt that his right hand was gradually losing feeling. He turned pale with fright and hurriedly shouted to Tang Yuanxing, hurry up and help. Otherwise we won't have the chance to attack. Tang Yuanxing didn't dare to be negligent. He immediately gathered his martial qi in his palm and attacked the stone-throat lizard's mouth with all his might. Boom! Another loud sound rang out. The stone-throat lizard didn't even have time to retract its tongue before it was blasted away. Its entire body was charred black and it couldn't be more dead. I say, you two idiots, what are you doing? Didn't I tell you a few times to pay attention to the surroundings? You actually lured the stone-throat lizard here, what a fucking waste. Jia Huoyin flew into a rage and scolded them. Fortunately, the petrification of his right hand would only last for a minute, and it would be gone soon. Otherwise he could only be a one-armed hero in the future. We didn't want to. If it weren't for Jia Kunchu being injured, we would definitely be able to escape from that lizard. Jia Kunchu was still in shock, gasping for breath and saying with a depressed face, injured. Jia Huoyin was a little surprised. He carefully looked at Jia Kunchu and found that apart from the scratches left by the lizard's claws, his face was also swollen like a pig's head. This was obviously not done by the lizard and their cart was gone. Immediately Jia Huiyan had a bad feeling and asked in a deep voice, "What on earth happened? Where are the spirit jades in the cart?" "Young Master Huiyan, you have to uphold justice for us. All the spirit jades were taken away by Jia Tuyao and his helper. Moreover, he beat me up indiscriminately, sob sob sob." Jia Inu couldn't help but cry out in grievance. He felt that he was really unlucky. Yesterday Jia Muzin took away his residence and today he was beaten by Jia Tuyao, and he didn't even complete the task assigned by young Master Huiyan. Cry 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 cry. Stop crying. How did he know your route? Jia Huiyan flew into a rage. Suddenly he rolled his eyes, pointed at the two people and roared, "You two bastards, you didn't collude with him, did you? Otherwise, how could it be so coincidental?" "I'm innocent, young Master Huiyan. We don't know how we were targeted by Jia Tuyao. When we were pushing the spirit jades back, he suddenly appeared and then..." Jia Kunchu said with a sad face, describing what had happened just now. *CK. You handed over the spirit jades, that's fine, but you actually betrayed me? Jia Huiyan trembled in anger. He rolled up his sleeves and was about to rush over and teach Jia Kunchu and Jia Kunchu a lesson, but he was stopped by Tang Yuanxing. "Young Master Huiyan, don't be impulsive. We have to get to the gate of the mine as soon as possible. Maybe we can get the spirit jades back. Otherwise, if they hand them over, it will be really troublesome." Tang Yuanxing patted on Jia Huiyan's shoulder and said in a deep voice, then took the lead and rushed towards the gate. "Humph! You two take the 2 bags of spirit jades and follow me. If you lose them again, be careful of your heads." Jia Huiyan snorted coldly, pointed at the bags on the ground, glared at Jia Kunchu and Jia Kunchu, then turned around and left with Tang Yuanxing. Jia Kunchu and Jia Kunchu glanced at each other. Both had a helpless look on their faces. Although they were wounded all over and their bones were about to fall apart, they had no choice but to carry the bags and follow behind Jia Huiyan while supporting each other with their tired bodies. When they arrived near the gate, Jia Huiyan found a corner and secretly looked towards the storage point. Immediately he was stunned. As it turned out, when Jia Kunchu and Jia Kunchu were avoiding the wild beasts and making their way back, Jia Tuyao had already taken a detour and returned to the storage point, and had already counted all the spirit jades. He was standing there leisurely, chatting with Bai Songyan, with a relaxed look on his face. Obviously he was determined to win. Jia Shirlei and Jia Raijing were also standing beside him with flattering faces, and would occasionally say a few words to him. Jia Rinzhong was standing alone at the gate of the mine, far away from Jia Tuyao. He was looking into the distance with a calm look on his face. Jia Muzin and Xiao Chen were nowhere to be seen. It seemed that they hadn't come back yet. Chapter 10:20. Jia Huiyan was so angry that he gnashed his teeth. Although he was itching to rush up and give Jia Tuyao a good beating, he had no choice but to swallow his anger. Moreover, it was getting late and the deadline for the competition was approaching. Therefore, he had no choice but to drag Tang Yuanxing and his 2 subordinates towards the storage area, whose face was gloomy. "Ah, isn't this Huiyan? Why are you all covered in dirt?" Seeing them, Jia Tuyao walked up with a bright smile. But he saw Jia Kushu and Jia Shochu standing there with wounds all over their bodies. Although Jia Tuyao was a bit confused, he still took out a bottle of healing ointment from his pocket, handed it over and said in a friendly tone, Come, put this bottle of ointment on your wounds. This is my usual healing ointment, it's very effective. I guarantee that your wounds will be healed immediately." "No. It's okay, they're all skin wounds. How can we waste young Master Tuyao's precious ointment? We just need to go back and take a rest." Jia Kushu hurriedly waved his hands with a trace of fear on his face. He even wanted to take a few big steps back and pretend that he didn't understand Huiyan's words. He didn't want to have anything to do with Jia Tuyao. How could he dare to take that bottle of ointment? "Kushu, look at you, I don't like what you just said. We're all from the Jia family, I told you to take it, so just take it. Why are you still treating me like a stranger?" Jia Tuyao took a few steps forward, forcibly shoved the bottle of ointment into Jia Kushu's hand, then turned around and said to Jia Huiyan with a gentle smile, "Brother Huiyan, look at you, you must have gained quite a lot. There must be hundreds of spirit jades in here, right?" Looking at the 2 large bags held in Jia Kushu's hands, which were faintly glowing with the light of spirit jades, Jia Tuyao was indeed a bit surprised. He thought that he had robbed a whole cart of spirit jades from Jia Huiyan, which meant that he would definitely lose this competition. He never thought that Jia Huiyan had so many spirit jades. Hee hee, not much, I'm not as capable as you are. Jia Huiyin threw a glance at Jia Tuyao, sneered and said in a weird tone, you don't need to do anything, you just need to move your fingers and you can get spirit jades. You're indeed a wolf in sheep's clothing. I admire you more and more. Ah. Same here, same here. We're pretty much the same, so let's not talk about each other. Jia Tuyao didn't bother to deny it and responded with a fake smile. The competition for the position of the family leader had always been a competition of one party or the other. Normally, in the family, Jia Tuyao could hide his true identity and pretend to be weak, but in this kind of situation where he had to fight against the family leader for real, Jia Tuyao didn't need to pretend anymore. Jia Huiyin snorted, no longer paying any attention to Jia Tuyao. He took the 2 bags of spirit jades from Jia Kushi's hand and put them on the table in the storage area. Jia Huiyin has handed over 78 pieces of spiritual jade. After the counting was done, the counting staff recorded everything on the form and carefully checked it again. After that, he handed the form to Jia Jinyan and reported, so far, Jia Huiyin has obtained 145 pieces of spirit jades, Jia Tuyao has 142 pieces of spirit jades, Jia Muzin has 65 pieces of spirit jades, and Jia Renzhong has 4 pieces of spirit jades. Patriarch, please have a look. The confident expression on Jia Tuyao's face froze, and he was greatly shocked. He thought that he had turned in the most number, but Jia Huiyin had actually turned in 3 pieces more than him. How was this possible? Oh. Soon, Jia Tuyao realized that Jia Huiyin must have turned in the spiritual jade this morning. And that Jia Muzin, who had been missing for a long time, had also turned in 65 pieces, hadn't he? He must have turned in the spiritual jade this morning as well. Damn it, this time he had really miscalculated. Was he going to miss the first place with a gap of 3 pieces of spirit jades? Looking at Jia Tuyao's face changing from red to pale, Jia Huiyin felt as happy as drinking iced water in the dog days of summer. He was so proud that he could almost fly to the sky. Jia Huiyin was about to open his mouth to mock Jia Jinyan, but Jia Jinyan spoke first. Oh, other than the direct descendants and Jia Renzhong, the other branch descendants did not even manage to collect a single piece of spiritual jade? After Jia Jinyan finished looking at the form, he swept his gaze across the 4 branch descendants in front of him and asked in a flat tone. No. Jia Kushi, Jia Sholu, Jia Shirlei, and Jia Raijing hesitated for a second, then answered together. They all lowered their heads in embarrassment. You have to work hard in the next round. Jia Jinyan was not stupid. His mind was as clear as a mirror. Of course, he knew that these 4 collateral descendants had turned in all the spirit jades they had collected to Jia Huiyin and Jia Tuyao. Although he was a little displeased, he didn't say anything. Instead, he slightly sighed. After all, being able to subdue the collateral descendants could be counted as a kind of ability, but it was a little disgraceful. Jia Kushi and the other 4 disciples responded together, then cast their jealous and hateful glances at Jia Renzhong. The 4 of them either didn't collect any spirit jades themselves, or they had given all the spirit jades they had collected to their boss. Therefore they didn't have a single piece. This Jia Renzhong had spent a whole day to collect only 4 pieces of spirit jades, but he had actually become the first place among the collateral descendants. What a lucky bastard. Jia Renzhong didn't notice the hostile glances from the others. He still calmly looked in front of him. He had been bullied so many times that this kind of glare was nothing to him. Reporting to Patriarch, there are only 5 minutes left before the competition ends. Do you think we should first count the weight of the spirit jades obtained by the young masters? The tallying staff finished reporting the numbers, raised his hand to look at his watch and asked respectfully. Oh, no hurry, wait until Musin arrives. Jia Jinyan said unhurriedly, then slightly closed his eyes as if he was thinking about something. Jia Muzin, this kid, said that he still has hundreds of spirit jades that he hasn't taken out. It's almost time, why can't I see a shadow of him? Could it be that he can't take out the spirit jades and is afraid of losing face in front of us, so he ran away like last time? Jia Huiyin was in a good mood. He crossed his arms in front of his chest and sneered proudly. In Jia Huiyin's eyes, this game was already as easy as pinching a snail with 3 fingers, and he was sure to win. No matter how hard he tried to calculate the weight, his 145 pieces of spirit jades were obviously heavier than Jia Tuyao's. And that guy named Xiaoqun, he actually said that he wanted to buy some ketchup and chili sauce. He thought that he was so awesome and almost scared me to death. In the end, didn't I still get the first place? They are really 2 big idiots. Jia Quanchu and Jia Shoulai immediately laughed. Just when they were about to flatter Jia Huiyin, a familiar voice suddenly sounded from behind. Kid, what are you blindly talking about? who is running away. Jia Huiyin was still immersed in the joy of victory. He was surprised when he heard the voice. He looked back and saw Xiao Chen and Jia Muzhen walking back from afar with their backpacks on their backs. Those words were said by Xiao Chen. Chapter 1021. Yo, you two still dare to come back? Did you not find any spiritual jades and found a pile of stones to make up the numbers? Jia Huiyin immediately retorted sarcastically. Jia Muzhen glanced at Jia Huiyin and did not argue with him. He directly handed the backpack to the tallying staff and then apologetically said to Jia Jinyan, "Grandpa, I'm sorry we came back too late and made you wait for so long. No problem, the time is just right, we can start counting now." Jia Jinyan waved his hand. The tallying staff carefully counted the number of spiritual jades in the backpack and looked at Jia Muzhen with some surprise. He picked up a pen and filled in the form a few times, then reported, "Jia Muzhen turned in 98 spiritual jades this time. Adding the 65 from before, there is a total of 163 spiritual jades." As expected. What? This is impossible. How can he have so many spiritual jades? You must have counted incorrectly. Jia Huiyin was about to ridicule a few more times, but the words got stuck in his throat. He was so surprised that he could not even close his mouth. He quickly ran over and snatched Jia Muzhen's backpack from the tallying staff, intending to personally count it again. "Young Master Huiyin, I have already counted 3 times, there is no way I would have counted incorrectly. Furthermore, what you are doing is against the rules. Please bring the backpack over, I will start measuring the spiritual jades." The tallying staff was somewhat dissatisfied. He was Jia Jinyan's trusted aide and did not need to give Jia Huiyin any face, so his words were very impolite. "There are really 98. Jia Huiyin was very puzzled and muttered. He slowly took Jia Muzhen's backpack and walked over. However, he quickly discovered something wrong when he opened the backpack's zipper. "Ah, Jia Muzhen, you are really good." Jia Huiyin quickly took out a spiritual jade from the backpack and raised it up with a laugh. "I was wondering how such a small backpack could hold so many spiritual jades. Turns out they are all defective goods. Look, this spiritual jade is only a little bigger than a ping-pong ball. You still have the nerve to turn in this kind of trash? I really have to give it to you." Jia Huiyin threw away Jia Muzhen's backpack and ran over to his own backpack. He took out another spiritual jade and raised it in his hand. "Look at mine. This size, this appearance, and the light emitted by the spiritual jades. Every single one of them surpasses your trash spiritual jades. What was the use of numbers? Do you think we're comparing weight? What are you showing off for? It hasn't even been weighed yet, so how do you know that my spiritual jade isn't as heavy as yours? Hurry up and put it down. Don't waste everyone's time, we're all waiting to go home for dinner." Jia Muzhen snatched his spiritual jade and put it back into his backpack. "Muzhen, Big Brother Huiyan's temper is just like that. Don't take it to heart." Jia Tuyao patted Jia Muzhen's shoulder. He also thought that Jia Muzhen's spirit jade looked small and shriveled, and would definitely lose in weight. Therefore he pretended to be kind and comforted Jia Muzhen. "Yo, Xiao Chen, aren't you guys too useless?" After attacking Jia Muzhen, Jia Huiyin turned his head to look at Xiao Chen. He did not let up and provoked him. "After wasting so much time, you only took out this kind of inferior product. You even said that you want me to admit defeat and eat spiritual jades. Your face is really big. Can't you speak properly? Why did he spray so much saliva? Did you know that it almost stuck to my face?" Xiao Chen glared at Jia Huiyin, walked to the table lazily, took out a few bottles and jars, placed them on the table and sneered, "Look carefully, don't say that we didn't take care of you. These are all prepared for you. After weighing, remember to eat all of our spiritual jades." "Ah." Jia Huiyin glanced at the table and found that there were actually all kinds of sauces on the table. He almost burst out laughing. He looked at Xiao Chen with a gaze full of pity. He thought that Xiao Chen must have lost his mind. Even at this critical moment, Xiao Chen was still acting cool. "What are you laughing at? If it weren't for buying these sauces for you, Muzhen would have already come back and handed over the spiritual jades. This has nothing to do with you." Xiao Chen scoffed at Jia Huiyin's mockery. Jia Huiyin was too lazy to talk to the idiot in his eyes. He turned his head to the counter and said, "Hurry up and start. Weigh my spiritual jades first, I want them to be convinced of their defeat." The counter directly ignored the fight between these young masters. He took out a scale from under the table and put the spiritual jades of Jia Huiyin, Jia Tuyao, and Jia Muzhen on it. Everyone held their breath, waiting for the final result. After repeatedly checking the spiritual jades, The counter recorded the weight of each spiritual jades, and finally handed the form to Jia Jinyan for him to announce. Jia Jinyan looked at the data, raised his head, and announced unhurriedly, "The weight of the spiritual jades mined this time has been calculated. They are, Jia Renzhong spiritual jades total 2 caddies and 7 tails, Jia Huoyin spiritual jades total 96 caddies, Jia Tuyao spiritual jades total 98 caddies, Jia Muzin spiritual jades total 125 caddies." There was no sound. The entrance of the mine was completely silent, as if it was a no-man's land. Apart from Xiaoqin and Jia Muzin, everyone's expression froze. They had a look of disbelief on their faces. Some people subconsciously rubbed their ears, thinking that they had misheard. Xiaoqin looked at Jia Renzhong with a slightly profound look. Just now, when the counter weighed the spiritual jades, he saw that Jia Renzhong had taken a total of 4 spiritual jades. Although it was not a lot, it meant that Jia Hongyong did not provide him with any spiritual jades. This made Xiaoqin a little surprised. It seemed that this Jia Hongyong was a person with principles. Although he had actively helped Jia Muzin, he did not seek benefits for his nephew. Moreover, he did not mention anything about helping Jia Renzhong. This person could be used. Jia Jinyan paused for a moment and then said, "I hereby announce that in the first round of the family competition, the collateral family's winner is Jia Renzhong, and the direct family's winner is Jia Muzin." Xiaoqin glanced at Jia Renzhong again and found that his expression was calm. He did not seem to be wild with joy because he had won with only 4 spiritual jades. Xiaoqin couldn't help but look at Jia Renzhong in a higher light. It seemed that this guy's willpower was quite firm. He was indeed a good seedling. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. There must have been an error in the measurement. My spiritual jades are so big, how could they be lighter than those ping-pong balls? Jia Huoyin's body trembled and he finally recovered. He was so angry that he roared loudly at the counter. At this time the crowd also started to clamor, and one after another they expressed their disbelief. Jia Kusi and Jia Shole also echoed, and insisted that Jia Huoyin's spiritual jade should be the heaviest. Jia Renzhong still stood far away, and looked at the group of collateral family disciples with slight disdain. When Jia Huoyin heard that there were people supporting him, his courage grew and he fiercely roared, "There must be a problem here, I want to weigh it again." Chapter 1022. Huoyin, shut up. Don't mess around. The counting clerk was so angry that his beard was twitching. When he was about to retort, he heard someone shouting from afar. Everyone turned around and saw 2 silhouettes rushing over from afar. Jia Yubian was in the front, and Jia Yudo was behind him. They had just finished dealing with their family affairs, so they immediately rushed over. Jia Yubian didn't expect to see his son arguing with the counting clerk as soon as he arrived. He was instantly scared out of his wits. All the counting clerks on the scene were his father's trusted subordinates. Normally when he saw them he had to give them some face and greet them. But this little bastard was actually angry at them. After Jia Yubian stopped Jia Huoyin, he strode to the entrance of the mine, grabbed the older counting clerk and said, "Uncle Gue, please don't be angry at this unfilial son. It's all my fault for not teaching him well. I hope you won't take it to heart." Uncle Gue snorted coldly, freed his hand from the grip, suppressed the anger in his heart and said, "Your son is quite capable. How could he suspect me? I've been following the old master for at least 40 to 50 years, but I've never been insulted like this. He's so arrogant." "Uncle Gue, please calm down. I'll ask him to apologize to you right now." Jia Yubian turned around and looked at Jia Huoyin. His face instantly darkened, he kicked him heavily and yelled, "You little bastard, what have I taught you? Hurry up and apologize to Uncle Gue." "I didn't say anything wrong. Why should I apologize? It's obvious that he weighed it wrongly. Look at the spirit jades I got, each of them is several times bigger than Jia Muzin's. But he said that my spirit jades are only 96 kilograms, less than Jia Tuyao's, and nearly 30 kilograms less than Jia Muzin's. How is this possible?" Jia Huoyin didn't know what was going on. He widely opened his eyes and protested loudly. "Stop talking nonsense. A loss is a loss. Don't worry about Jia Muzin's spirit jades." Jia Yubian glanced at the spirit jades on the ground. Suddenly he stopped scolding and walked over. He picked up the spirit jades that Jia Muzin brought back and carefully looked at them. Instantly, his face darkened and he asked, "Muzin, who allowed you to use the spirit jades from the main mine to participate in the competition? This is clearly cheating. As the spirit jades in the main mining area were specially processed before being produced, Not only were they carefully selected, but they had also removed impurities. Therefore the quality was first class. Although they were only the size of ping-pong balls, they felt much heavier than ordinary spirit jades. Jia Yubian had been in charge of the heavenly jade mine for many years, so he could recognize them immediately. Jia Muzin's complexion was somewhat unsightly. Just now, when he went to look for Jia Hongyong to ask for spirit jades, Jia Hongyong had readily agreed and very generously gave him a large pile. Jia Muzin didn't pay too much attention to the size and quality of the spirit jades. He only wanted to win. At this time he was feeling a little regretful. If he had known this would happen, he would have used some ordinary spiritual jades. Anyway, they were heavy enough and he could have won. Jia Yubian wouldn't have seen through him. Turtle Whip, you said that this spiritual jade was taken from the main mine. Do you have any proof? Besides, what does this match have to do with you? The old patriarch has already announced Jia Muzin's victory, so why are you still saying such useless things? Xiao Qin impatiently dismissed him. If you have nothing to do, don't keep messing around here. Go somewhere cool. Jia Yubian directly ignored Xiao Qin and said to Jia Jinyan, Father, I suggest that we immediately find the acting manager of the main mine, Jia Hongyong. As long as we check the accounts of the recent spiritual jade mining, I believe that the truth will soon come to light. If Jia Muzin is indeed suspected of cheating, I suggest that this match be annulled and Jia Muzin's participation qualification be permanently revoked. There is no need for that. To Jia Yubian's surprise, Jia Jinyan directly rejected his proposal and said flatly, since I have already announced the result, then Jia Muzin is the winner of this match and at the same time he will get 1 point. Jia Yubian anxiously wanted to refute, but when the words were about to come out of his mouth, he was interrupted by Xiao Qin. This fart, be careful or else I will publicly expose how Mu Sen and I entered the inner martial arts world. Xiao Qin threatened. Jia Yubian was stunned. Only then did he remember that his son's spiritual jades were obtained by secretly holding a trial mission. If it was really investigated, Jia Huoyan would also not be able to escape the responsibility. Just as Jia Yubian was hesitating, Jia Jinyan waved his hand, stood up, and said to the direct descendants and collateral descendants, That's it, the next match is tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning held inside the Jia family. You must be tired from the day, go back and rest early. After saying that, Jia Jinyan and the other counting staff left, directly ignoring Jia Yubian who wanted to say something but was hesitant. Jia Jinyan wasn't being biased. Before Jia Yubian had noticed the abnormality of the spirit jades, he had already discovered the source of Jia Muzin's spirit jades. However, in his opinion, the way of commanding his subordinates was equally important. Jia Muzin was able to successfully recruit Jia Hongyong as his subordinate without any foundation. He was able to make Jia Hongyong willingly take the risk to hand over the spirit jades that he had refined. Besides, Jia Jinyan could roughly guess where Jia Huoyan and Jia Tiao got so many spirit jades from. Therefore, Jia Jinyan chose to turn a blind eye to it, and didn't intend to make a fuss about it. Otherwise, if he got to the bottom of the matter, no one would benefit from it. Jia Yubian hesitated for a long while, finally stamped his foot, gave up the protest, sighed, and turned around to take Jia Huoyan's spiritual jades. As soon as he took the spiritual jades, Jia Yubian was immediately stunned. He weighed the spiritual jades in his hand in confusion, then turned around and asked Jia Huoyan, Huoyan, the number of spiritual jades doesn't seem right? Why does it seem to be less? Jia Huoyan had failed in his protest, and was feeling dispirited. Hearing Ji Hao's question, he pointed his finger at Jia Tuyao and said, Those spiritual jades were taken away by him. What? Jia Yubian was startled. He abruptly turned around and reached his hand towards Jia Tuyao's spiritual jades. However, right when Jia Yubian's fingers touched the edge of the spiritual jades, another hand suddenly reached out and snatched the spiritual jades away. It was Jia Yuto who had been standing aside and watching for quite a while. What are you doing? Those are our spiritual jades. Jia Yubian glared at Jia Yuto and yelled. Who can prove that they are yours? Where did you get them? Are your names on those spiritual jades? Jia Yuto looked at Jia Yuto with a faint smile and threw out a series of questions. You said they are yours? Fine, we'll go to the family leader to prove it. As long as you can tell us the source of these spiritual jades, and we can verify it, I'll immediately give these spiritual jades to you. You. Jia Yubian was so angry that his chest was heaving up and down, and his eyes were dazzled. This Jia Yuto had grasped his lifeline, and he was sure that Jia Yuto dared not to complain to the family leader. Chapter 1023. Tut tut tut, dog bites dog, a mouthful of fur. Musin, I finally understand why you ran away from home. Xiaoqun sighed. In this kind of family, even brothers can fight each other shamelessly. It's so dirty. Who the hell are you calling shameless? Jia Huiyin, who was already irritated by Xiaoqun, jumped up like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, pointed at Xiaoqun and screamed. Oh, if you didn't jump out, I would have forgotten. Jia Huiyin, now it's time to witness a miracle. Xiaoqun clapped his hands, took Jia Muzin's bag of spiritual jades, put it in front of Jia Huiyin, pointed at the sauces on the table and said with a smirk, "Come on, eat all these spiritual jades. Ketchup, curry sauce, you can choose any. Hey, don't leave so soon. Everyone here heard it, are you going to go back on your words?" Hearing this, Jia Huiyin immediately lost his confidence. He shrunk his head, ignored Jia Huiyin's attempt to stop him, turned around and left in a huff. Jia Yubian had suffered a great loss at Jia Yuto's side, and his complexion didn't look too good. He ordered Jia Kushi and Jia Shoulai to carry the collected spirit jades into the carriage, then fiercely glared at Jia Muzin and Jia Tuyao, got into the carriage and drove away. While the crowd was quarreling, Jia Rinzhong had quietly left the heavenly jade mine. Xiaoqun wanted to talk to him, but by the time he thought about it, Jia Rinzhong had already disappeared. Musin, Xiaoqun, you did a good job. Congratulations, continue to work hard tomorrow. Jia Tuyao's eyes flashed with a trace of ruthlessness. He patted Jia Muzin's shoulder, pretending to encourage him, and then hurriedly left with Jia Yuto and his men. Jia Muzin and Xiaoqun looked at each other and smiled. They both saw that although Jia Tuyao was unwilling, he couldn't do anything to them. Since the family leader had spoken in front of everyone, Jia Tuyao dared not to raise any objection. Although he didn't want Jia Muzin to win, he couldn't blatantly raise his objection, because what had happened to Jia Huiyin was still vivid in his mind. Therefore he could only think of other ways in the following matches. The two of them leisurely returned to Jia Muzin's courtyard. After taking a bath, Xiaoqun casually ate something to fill his stomach before he went to look for a few female cultivators for dual cultivation. Xiaoqun described today's competition to them. When he talked about the highlights, the girls covered their mouths or giggled. After chatting, everyone immersed themselves in cultivation. Xiaoqun still didn't have sex with them. He just simply cultivated. After all, he didn't know what was going to happen next, so he didn't want to waste too much energy. At 8 o'clock the next morning, all the participants of the second match gathered in the conference room, waiting for Jia Jinyan to announce the content of the match. Today's second trial is mainly to test everyone's adaptability. Seeing that all the participants had arrived, Jia Jinyan calmly introduced, "In this trial, you have to facilitate a cooperation project between our family and other martial arts sects within 1 day. Every contract is marked with the family's bottom line. If you choose to sign a contract below the bottom line to achieve your goal, then the contract will be invalid. Do you understand?" Today's competition was slightly more complicated than yesterday's. Everyone was silent for a while and no one nodded. Jia Jinyan was not in a hurry and quietly waited. "Grandpa, I have a question. If everyone spends the same amount of time and signs the contract below the bottom line, how will the winner be determined?" Jia Muzin thought for a while, raised his hand and asked. "Whoever can get more benefits for the family under the same conditions will be the winner." Jia Jinyan seemed to have expected that someone would ask this question, so he unhurriedly explained, "The bottom line marked on the contract is divided into several levels. The one who gets the most benefits for the family will get 3 points, the one who gets the least benefits will get 2 points, the one who signs the contract below the bottom line will get 1 point, and the one who signs the contract below the bottom line will not be allowed to sign the contract, and will directly fail." Jia Muzin nodded. It seemed that this competition didn't have much to do with time. As long as the family could get the most benefits within 1 day, it would be fine. "Is there anyone else who has a question?" Jia Jinyan asked again. Seeing that no one had any objection, he opened his mouth and said, "Well, next let's draw lots. First, we'll draw the negotiation partners, then we'll draw the cooperation projects. These 2 projects are random and you'll draw them according to seniority." 2 simple wooden boxes were placed on the conference table, each containing a few letters. From the appearance there was no difference at all. Jia Huiyin took the lead and walked over. After studying for a while, he found that there was no shortcut, so he hesitated and picked a letter from each of the 2 wooden boxes. Then he returned to his seat, opened it and read it. Next it was Jia Tuyao and Jia Muzin's turn. After they had finished drawing lots and returned to their seats, it was the turn of the collateral descendants. When the last Jia Rinzhong got the letter, he immediately put away the wooden boxes containing the letters and took them away. It was not that there were many descendants of the Jia family, but for the sake of fairness, Jia Jinyan deliberately put more letters in order to avoid the advantages and disadvantages of choosing first and last. After drawing a letter, everyone opened it and read it. However, except for Jia Tuyao and Jia Renzhong, the others didn't look very good. The reason was very simple. The Jia family relied on the Heaven Jade Mine, and usually, its main function in the martial arts world was to supply spirit jades in exchange for resources. Therefore, the cooperation content was nothing more than exchanging spirit jades for natural treasures, cultivation manuals, weapons, spirit beasts, and so on. Regarding this kind of competition, Jia Tuyao was surely very confident. His father, Jia Yuto, was usually in charge of contacting other sects and families. Therefore, Jia Tuyao had a wide network of friends. Therefore, it was not a problem for him to form a cooperation within the shortest span of time. As far as Jia Tuyao was concerned, this competition was simply tailor-made for him. If he didn't win the first place, it would be absolutely intolerable. As for Jia Renzhong, there was a hint of joy on his face. The contract he had drawn was the simplest one among all the types. As long as he talked with the partners normally, he would almost certainly succeed. Therefore, he was naturally a little happy. Next, I'll give you some time to prepare. Familiarize yourself with the key points of cooperation and negotiation skills. Jia Jinyan took in everyone's expressions and calmly said a few words. I've already invited the people in charge of contacting the clans and sections 1 hour from now. All of you will gather in the reception hall on time. Glancing at the crowd, Jia Jinyan left the conference room with his subordinates and went to make preparations. Mu Sen, what's the content of your contract? Xiao Qun craned his neck to take a look, and found that it was written on the contract that they would exchange spirit jades for martial arts manuals. He patted Mu Sen's shoulder and said casually, this is quite simple. 100 spirit jades for 3 handwritten martial arts manuals, it can be negotiated in minutes. Don't worry, the first place is definitely yours. Chapter 1024. It's not as easy as you say, Jia Muzhen shook his head helplessly. Looking at the contract in his hand, he said with a troubled expression, the Yu clan is not easy to talk to. I think it would be good enough if we could keep our bottom line and get a secret manual. As for the highest contract, I don't even dare to think about it. Jia Muzhen was usually a man of few words, so he had no confidence in his negotiation skills at all. Moreover, he did not have as many connections as Jia Tuyao did. At this moment, he was completely at a loss and did not know where to start. What are you afraid of? With me around, you can be at ease. At that time, not only will you sign the contract properly, I will also give you a lot of additional conditions. Xiao Chen's tone was as relaxed as if he was buying vegetables in a market. Yes, I believe you. Jia Muzhen nodded. He trusted Xiao Chen very much. Since Xiao Chen had said so, there would definitely be no problem. Xiao Chen smiled, stretched his body and said, let's go. There is nothing to study about the contract. Bring me to the Jia mansion for a stroll. I haven't really strolled around since I came here. After we finish strolling around, we will go and kill the Yu clan's people. Jia Muzhen agreed. He did not think too much and left the meeting room with Xiao Chen. When he reached the door, Xiao Chen unintentionally turned his head back and saw Jia Sholuo and Jia Raijing smiling evilly. They were chatting with Jia Renzhong with their arms around each other's shoulders. Jia Renzhong's face was red, as if he was answering Jia Sholuo's question. Seeing this scene, although Xiao Chen was a little curious and surprised that these two fellows from different factions would join hands, he did not intend to use his divine sense to eavesdrop. He just kept an eye on them and walked out. Father, Jia Muzhen and Xiao Chen seemed to be quite confident. Could it be that they have someone supporting them in secret? Seeing Jia Muzhen and Xiao Chen leave indifferently, Jia Tuyao could not help but be a little puzzled and asked suspiciously. Tisk, with just these two bastards, who can support them? Jia Yuto snorted and snorted. Yesterday he cheated and won the match by cheating. Today's match was a random draw. He didn't know who his partner was beforehand. Besides, even if he knew who his partner was, with me around he still had no advantage at all. Alright, you don't have to worry so much. From his point of view, Xiao Chen and Jia Muzhen simply didn't have any competitive edge. On the contrary, Jia Huoyan's threat was relatively greater. This was because Jia Yubian controlled the Heavenly Jade Mine. Although he had lost some of his influence, his accumulated prestige still existed. He still had a lot of authority over his business partners. Jia Tuyao responded with an "oh," then rubbed his nose. He didn't pay any more attention to Jia Muzhen and the others, but focused his attention on the group of people surrounding Jia Renzhong. Jia Yuto pondered for a while, then abruptly said, "Tiao, you wait here, I'll help you arrange things so that the signing of the contract will be smoother." Jia Yuto thought for a while and still felt that he had to show up and communicate with those guests so that they would do him a favor. On the one hand, his son could win the match with the highest contract, and on the other hand he could indirectly make the guests give the other contestants a hard time. "All right," Jia Tuyao responded. Seeing Jia Yuto walk out of the door and walk towards the reception room, he turned around and saw Jia Raijing walking towards him. He walked up to her and asked, "How is it? Did you find out anything? Do you know which sect the others are going to talk with?" "Young Master Tuyao, I've just asked around. Jia Huiyan's people are pretty tight-lipped, so I haven't found out who they are going to talk with yet. However, I've secretly seen the contract in Jia Renzhong's hand. This kid is quite lucky, he actually got to exchange spirit jades for natural treasures, which is the easiest item. What a lucky kid," said Jia Raijing with an envious look. Just now he was sent by Jia Tuyao to inquire about the contents of the contracts of Jia Huiyan and the others. However, Jia Shoulei was obviously on guard against him, and also wanted to inquire about the items of the contracts of Jia Huiyan and the others. Both of them chatted back and forth for a while, but both of them found that they couldn't gain any advantage. Therefore they unanimously decided to first target Jia Renzhong, who was alone, and then fight with their own strengths. After Jia Raijing and Jia Shoulei reached an agreement, they went to Jia Renzhong to inquire about the information. Jia Renzhong was usually a lone wolf, and lacked experience in communicating with others. Although Jia Renzhong and Jia Shoulei were vigilant against them, Jia Shoulei and Jia Shoulei still managed to get some information about Jia Renzhong and Jia Shoulei. "Damn it, why does this kid always have this kind of luck?" Jia Tuyao murmured, took a few steps back and forth, then said to Ji Yunshu, "In this case you go find my father as soon as possible. He should be meeting with the leaders of the other sections. You tell him about Jia Renzhong's task and ask him to deal with them. Let's deal with the partners of this kid first." He also knew that Jia Huiyan and the others were not that easy to fool, so he could only pick the weakest ones first. "All right, I'll go right now." Jia Raijing nodded and couldn't wait to run to the reception room. Jia Tuyao threw a glance at Jia Huiyan and the others, snorted coldly, put away his contracts, sat down on the other side and closed his eyes to rest his mind. An hour later, all the contestants and helpers walked into the reception room on time. Jia Jinyan had been waiting here for quite a while. Seeing that everyone had arrived, his two trusted subordinates walked over and slowly closed the door of the reception room. In the spacious reception room, a few large tables had been placed on each table, and on each table was an eye-catching number plate. Sitting across each table was a man dressed in ancient clothes. Obviously, he was invited by Jia Jinyan to participate in the negotiation competition. In order not to disturb the others during the negotiation, all the tables had been separated by screens. Although it was a bit crowded, it was well hidden. Therefore, even if there were any small movements in private or the final decision of which bottom line to use to sign the contract, no one would see it. However, Jia Yubian and Jia Yuto were not in the reception room. Both of them were elders of the family, one was in charge of the mine, and the other was familiar with the family's connections. In order to avoid arousing suspicion, they had to wait in another place. After all, it was their sons who were participating in the competition, and Jia Jinyan was supervising them on the spot. Therefore they couldn't go too far, and could only wait outside for the final result. The competition officially starts now. Everyone, please sit at the corresponding table according to the number plate marked on the envelope you drew. At Jia Jinyan's command, all the contestants took their seats one after another. After exchanging a few words with the guests, both sides started to talk amiably. The person who was negotiating with Jia Muzhen was a Yu clan member named Yu Lingchuan. He was about 50 or 60 years old, and his position was one of the Yu clan's chief stewards. Usually, he was mainly in charge of discussing matters of cooperation with other martial arts sections. Almost all of the Yu clan's resource allocation had to be approved by him. It could be said that he held great power, and his power was monstrous. Chapter 1025. Hello, Uncle Yu, I am Jia Muzhen. Today I want to talk to you about the cooperation between our Jia clan and Yu clan. Jia Muzhen walked to the table and bowed respectfully to Yu Lingchuan. This was the first time he was negotiating with someone, so he was subconsciously nervous. Xiao Qin stood behind Jia Muzhen, one step away from him. On one hand he could observe Yu Lingchuan's expression from above, and on the other hand he could secretly release his divine sense to eavesdrop on the other cubicles. Hehe, hello Xiaosen. It's not the first time our two clans have cooperated, you don't have to be so nervous. Come sit. Tell me what kind of cooperation you want to talk about this time. Yu Lingchuan smiled and waved his hand. I'm sorry Uncle Yu then I won't be polite, let's get straight to the point. Jia Muzhen sat down and took a deep breath. He took out a contract from his bosom and placed it on the table. He tried his best to speak in a gentle tone. This time, our Jia clan wants to use 100 pieces of spiritual jades to exchange for the Yu clan's 3 handwritten martial arts manuals. The detailed contents and rules are all in the contract. Uncle Yu, please take a look. Okay, wait for me to wear my glasses and take a good look. Old people are really useless. If I don't wear a pair of reading glasses, I won't even be able to read. Xiaosen, it's not that Uncle Yu is taking advantage of his age, but you have to take good care of your eyesight at your age. Otherwise, it will be troublesome if you become like me. As Yu Lingchuan nagged, he took out a pair of glasses and slowly put it on his nose. He picked up the contract on the table and squinted his eyes to read it carefully. Okay, take your time, there's no rush. Although Jia Muzhen said that, he felt weird in his heart. His nearsightedness was caused by his genes. Otherwise, who would like to wear glasses for no reason? Moreover, wasn't this Yu Lingchuan in charge of the Yu clan's resource allocation and cooperation? He should be very familiar with this contract. Why did he have to read it page by page? Xiao Chun glanced at Yu Lingchuan with a disdainful sneer. He could tell with one look that Yu Lingchuan was wearing a pair of flat lenses which couldn't correct one's vision. At most, it could be used to block out sand or UV rays. This old thing was probably just trying to stall for time, putting on an act. It was just as Xiao Qin had predicted. Yu Lingchuan read the 3-page contract repeatedly for more than an hour, but he still had no intention of stopping. He continued to read item by item in a leisurely manner. When he reached the last item, he flipped to the first page and started reading again. Jia Muzhen was a little anxious. He didn't know that there was a problem with Yu Lingchuan's glasses. He thought that Yu Lingchuan was really too meticulous and had to read every word and sentence carefully. He couldn't help but feel a little unhappy. The Jia family was one of the top 3 families in the martial arts world. Was it worth it to take advantage of him? Cough cough. Although he was unhappy, Jia Muzhen did not directly interrupt him. He only coughed twice and indirectly reminded him. Xiaosen, what's wrong? Is your throat uncomfortable? If you have a cold, remember to see a doctor as soon as possible. Don't belittle a cold or a cough. Back then, Uncle Yu relied on his youthful vigor and thought that it would be over after a while. In the end, when he was old, it left behind many chronic illnesses. Sigh. Yu Lingchuan sighed heavily as if he didn't understand Jia Muzhen's intentions. Instead, he gave him a sincere lecture. Oh, I didn't mean it that way. Jia Muzhen finally realized that Yu Lingchuan was simply stalling for time. He quickly said, Uncle Yu, you have already read this contract several times. If you have any problems, feel free to raise them. I can also make some adjustments and give in appropriately. Xiaosen, one look and I can tell that you don't know how to do business. Yu Lingchuan looked at Jia Muzhen with slight reproach and said patiently, look at what you are saying. Our Jia and Yu families have been working together for decades. How can I let you suffer losses? The most important thing in doing business is to be mutually beneficial. If you give in, I will suspect that you are giving me a defective product. It's all right. This is only a competition and not a real collaboration. As long as you agree to sign the contract, I won't lose anything by giving in. Jia Muzhen felt a headache as he quickly explained. What you said isn't right. As a senior, how can I take advantage of a junior? Yu Lingchuan took off his spectacles and leisurely picked up the tea on the table to take a sip. He said plainly, also, who told you that this is just a competition? After this contract is signed, we must fulfill the terms written on it. There is no room for carelessness. What? Jia Muzhen was shocked and couldn't react in time. He always thought that the negotiation and signing of the contract were just part of the competition. He didn't expect that it was all real. But, even so, Yu Lingchuan took a little too long, right? Although he had never negotiated a collaboration before, he had never heard of a 3-page contract taking half a day to read. Seeing that Jia Muzhen was hesitating, Xiao Qin looked at Yu Lingchuan impatiently and said, even if you really want to fulfill the terms, you have already read it so many times. You should understand it, right? Tell us your conditions. If we can negotiate, we will sign the contract. If not, then we will talk about it. What are you waiting for? Just now, he overheard that Jia Tuyao's side had already negotiated and got the highest interest contract. It was just that it was still early, so he didn't report it immediately. He was still sitting there chatting. On the other side, Jia Huoyin and a few collateral descendants were also progressing smoothly. It probably wouldn't take long for them to sign the contract. Little brother, as the saying goes, haste makes waste. After all, this contract involves the interests of both our families. I should at least take a look at it before I consider how to discuss with you, right? Yu Lingchuan still had the same unhurried attitude. He had been a steward for dozens of years and had cooperated with outsiders countless times. To him, dragging time and talking nonsense was just a common occurrence. But, just when Jia Muzin was about to speak, Yu Lingchuan suddenly raised his head and looked at Xiao Chen. With an amiable face he asked, "Oh yes, little brother, what's your name?" "My name is Xiao Chen." Xiao Chen replied coldly. He had long understood that this old thing obviously wanted to drag out the time and then find a random reason not to sign the contract. There was no problem with this contract. Moreover, Jia Muzin was willing to compromise. Normal people wouldn't reject it. Yu Lingchuan's attitude was obviously foreshadowing. Although Xiao Chen wanted to beat Yu Lingchuan up openly, this was the Jia family's territory. He couldn't be too arrogant. However, Xiao Chen wasn't in a hurry. He planned to quietly watch Yu Lingchuan act cool. Chapter 1026. Anyway, even if it dragged to the last moment, he had a way to make Yu Lingchuan sign what he should and what he shouldn't sign. Xiao Chen. That's a good name. I'm not afraid to say it as a joke, but this old man has read someone's fortune before and it's quite accurate. Xiao Chen, your name matches your looks. It looks like you'll definitely be successful in the future. But, coincidentally, this old man knows the daughter of an old friend. Why don't I? Yu Lingchuan seemed to be a chatterbox as he blabbered on and on. Jia Muzin glanced at Xiao Chen, his eyes filled with helplessness. It was as if he was apologetic that Jia Muzin had been dragged into this. Xiao Chen shook his head in consolation, indicating that there was no need to worry. He had a solution. Just as the two of them were thinking of a way to interrupt Yu Lingchuan's nonsense, the Jia family servants served lunch. It's time to eat. Yu Lingchuan finally stopped talking when he saw the food. He called out to Xiao Chen, Come Xiao Chen, don't just stand there like a fool. Sit down and let's eat together. As for the contract, we can talk about it after eating." The corner of Xiao Chen's mouth twitched. He couldn't be bothered to mock Jia Muzin anymore. He sat down with a cold face and picked up their bowls together with Jia Muzin. They started wolfing down the food on the table. The two of them were obviously thinking the same thing. Neither of them intended to leave any for Yu Lingchuan. However, to their surprise, Yu Lingchuan didn't seem to mind at all. Instead, he took the opportunity to lecture Xiao Chen and Jia Muzin about how they shouldn't eat too fast and that young people should chew slowly. He even pointed at the two of them with his chopsticks from time to time. Then, he slowly ate his rice, ignoring the murderous gazes of the two people in front of him. After finishing the last grain of rice, Yu Lingchuan let out a long burp. He took out a box of toothpicks out of nowhere and took out a tobacco pipe. He picked his teeth and smoked as if there was no one else around him. He even looked like he was enjoying himself. Xiao Chen couldn't be bothered with him anymore and pretended not to see him. However, Jia Muzin almost exploded in anger. He was already pissed off by Yu Lingchuan's lecture. He didn't expect this old man to go even further. "Tell me, what kind of teeth did you pick out? Wasn't it just a bowl of white rice? How could it stuff his teeth? This was 2F** King Unreal. Reporting Grandpa. I have completed the contract and obtained the best benefits for the Jia family. Please take a look." Xiao Chen was watching Yu Lingchuan put on an act with a faint smile on his face. Suddenly he heard Jia Tuyao shout from a short distance away. His voice was especially loud and he couldn't hide his pride. It was as if he was a victor showing off his spoils of war, as if he was afraid that the people present couldn't hear him. "Well done. You can go and have a rest. Let's wait for the others to finish their matches, then we'll give a unified score." Jia Jinyan nodded in satisfaction. In fact, he also knew that there was something fishy going on. Jia Yuto must have given him a warning beforehand. However, he did not expose him. After all, the result was the most important. As long as it could bring benefits to the family, any method was worth a try. Jia Tuyao proudly stood up, cast a disdainful glance at the room where Jia Muzin and Jia Huoyin were, then shook his head and walked to the armchair nearby, crossed his legs, closed his eyes and rested, waiting for the announcement of the final result. Not long after, Jia Shirlei and Jia Raijing also signed the contract. Although they didn't get the highest contract, they settled for the second best and successfully completed the negotiation in the second tier. They got 2 points. On the other side, Jia Huiyan didn't have it so smooth. Originally, with his eloquence, he got along well with Yu Lingchuan. However, when it came to the contract, Yu Lingchuan would inexplicably put forward some conditions that he couldn't accept. After arguing back and forth many times, they still couldn't reach an agreement. In desperation, Jia Huiyan could only choose to compromise with Yu Lingchuan and successfully sign the contract with the second tier. However, the points he could get dropped from the original 3 points to 2 points. His 2 subordinates were even more miserable. Whether it was Jia Kushu or Jia Shoulei, they were suppressed by Yu Lingchuan and didn't have any right to speak. In the end, they could only obediently sign the contract with the bottom line. They each got 1 point and handed over the contract resentfully. They sat on the side with a bitter face, waiting for the final punishment. Jia Huiyan, who was extremely depressed, knew clearly that Jia Yuto must have played a role in this. However, he didn't have any evidence, so he couldn't complain to his grandfather. In addition, looking at his grandfather's attitude yesterday, it seemed that he had tacitly agreed to the little tricks outside the competition. Even if he went to complain, the final result would probably be nothing. Jia Huiyan thought about it and could only choose to accept his fate. After a few hours, only Jia Muzhen and Jia Renzhong had not completed the contract. Yu Lingchuan kept on talking about all sorts of things, but he didn't mention the contract. Xiao Chen took the opportunity to eavesdrop on Jia Renzhong's situation. The situation wasn't optimistic either. The person he was negotiating with was extremely unyielding, not willing to give in even a single step. The contract in Jia Renzhong's hands was originally the simplest. According to reason, as long as they had a good chat, it wouldn't be impossible for them to sign the contract with the highest standard. However, the other party immediately rejected this plan and even raised many crafty, unreasonable and unimaginable demands. No matter how stupid Jia Renzhong was, he already understood that he had definitely been tricked by Jia Shoulei and Jia Raijing. He could be considered to be quick-witted, immediately giving up on the idea of getting 3 points. He only continuously fought for the possibility of getting 2 points. However, looking at the current situation, the other party at most only wanted to sign the contract with the bottom line. Otherwise, they would give up on the cooperation. There wasn't even any room for discussion. Xiao Sen. Feeling that the time was right, Yu Lingchuan finally started to cut to the chase. I feel that this contract doesn't seem to be very beneficial to the Yu clan. After all, the Yu clan had spent a lot of manpower and resources to obtain these 3 secret martial arts manuals that you want. Isn't a mere 100 pieces of spiritual jades a little too little? Let me give you a suggestion. If you can increase it to 200 pieces of spiritual jades, I can bear with the pain and part with them on account of our long years of cooperation. 200 pieces of spiritual jades. Jia Muzhen was stunned, his face was full of awkwardness. Uncle Yu, isn't this a little inappropriate? You see, our Jia clan only wants the handwritten copies of the secret martial arts manuals, not the original copies. Your price tag is too high. You can't say it like that. Think about it, these 200 pieces of spiritual jades can only allow 2 people to enter the revered realm. Moreover, the Yu clan will have to bear a huge risk. If these 2 people don't come out, wouldn't it be a huge loss? Yu Lingchuan shook his head and patiently guided him. Moreover, 200 pieces of spiritual jades to your Jia clan is just a drop in the ocean. You can just find a few workers to dig in the mines and you will have it. Why are you so calculative with me? Chapter 1027. But, $200 is too much. It's twice as much as I originally expected. Even if our Jia family has the heavenly jade mine, we can't dig that much in a day. Jia Muzhen frowned. He begged to differ with Yu Lingchuan. One had to know that the spirit jades that he had asked Jia Hongyong for in the previous match had taken nearly a week for the miners to dig out the superior spirit jades and then carve them to remove the impurities before they could take shape. Although the heavenly jade mine had sufficient reserves of spiritual jades were also divided into several grades. High-grade spiritual jades were not commonly dug out. Most of them were secondary-grade spiritual jades and waste jades. It was precisely because the amount of high-grade spiritual jades was too little that the number of people entering the venerable realm was so limited. The spiritual jades that Jia Tuyao snatched from Jia Huiyan in yesterday's match belonged to the secondary-grade spiritual jades. Hence, they were much lighter than high-grade spiritual jades. How about this? Little Sen, I won't beat around the bush. If you can only take out 100 pieces of spiritual jades, Then I'll give you a handwritten secret manual and some high-grade spiritual herbs. We're talking about a fair cooperation. I can't let you suffer a loss, right? Yu Lingchuan slammed the table and said generously. Jia Muzhen was speechless. So many spiritual jades could only be exchanged for a handwritten secret manual. Furthermore, there weren't any heaven and earth treasures. It was only high-grade spiritual herbs. This Yu Lingchuan was too calculative. We are the dignified Jia family. Do we still lack those high-grade spiritual herbs? Uncle Yu, this is too little. How about? I don't want those high-grade spiritual herbs. How about you give me 2 secret manuals? Otherwise, 100 pieces of spiritual jades for a secret manual is not worth it. I won't be able to explain it to the old master. Jia Muzhen thought for a while and decided to fight for it. He wanted to see if he could get Yu Lingchuan to agree. I also know that you want to score points in the match. That's why it's difficult for you. However, I also have my difficulties. Yu Lingchuan smiled faintly as though he had made an important decision. He rubbed his chin and said, in that case, let's understand each other. I will give you some natural treasures as compensation. I really cannot give you any more secret manuals. Otherwise, it will be hard for me to explain myself when I return. This. Jia Muzhen hesitated for a moment. He reckoned that this would be the only result if he continued to negotiate. Gritting his teeth, he was about to agree when Xiaoqin suddenly said, Senior Yu, it's not that I want to say this, but for an illustrious venerable like you to haggle over every ounce with us juniors for such a small profit, isn't that a bit lacking in moral integrity? Yu Lingchuan laughed out loud when he heard that. He thought to himself, Xiaoqin, you little brat. Weren't you acting cool with me just now? Why did he admit defeat now? Why don't you keep pretending? At that time, if I'm not happy, I won't even sign the contract. Let's see how you're going to report back then. However, after being flattered by Xiaoqin, Yu Lingchuan was still very happy. He stroked his beard and said heartily, Nephew Xiaoqin, you're flattering me. I'm only a martial king at the full circle. How could I have the honor of becoming a martial honored? Xiaoqin's eyes flashed. He pretended to be surprised and asked, That's impossible, right? Senior Yu, you look so dignified with white hair and a youthful complexion. How could you only be a martial king? Don't be so humble. You can't say that. Yu Lingchuan was very happy and his nagging temper flared up again. You should know that the honorable realm is not a place that anyone can enter just because they want to. Aside from providing spiritual jades, the younger the person is, the higher the chance of success. For an old man like me, I don't have such extravagant hopes. You youngsters, on the other hand, have plenty of opportunities. So you're really a martial king at the full circle. That makes things much easier. Xiaoqin laughed coldly. He turned around and ordered the Jia family servants to bring him a piece of white paper. He then wrote a few lines on the paper. What do you mean? Yu Lingchuan was slightly stunned as he looked at Xiaoqin suspiciously. After Xiaoqin finished writing, he threw the white paper in front of Yu Lingchuan and laughed coldly. This is an additional contract. Aside from signing the highest contract with Jia Muzhen, you must also agree to all the conditions in the additional contract. Yu Lingchuan could not understand these words. He subconsciously picked up the additional contract and took a look. Suddenly he burst into laughter. I think you're crazy. It's written here. Not only will the Yu family provide 5 handwritten martial arts manuals, they will also need to provide the Jia family with 20 treasures at the price of 50 spiritual jades. Other than that, the Yu family will also need to provide 10 workers to the Jia family to help them mine. All the earnings from the mines will belong to the Jia family. Xiaoqin, are you serious? Are you sure you didn't write the contract backwards? Yu Lingchuan held back his laughter and pretended to be serious as he read out the additional contract. Of course it's true. I didn't write it backwards either. Xiaoqin was unmoved as he replied indifferently. Although Jia Muzhen was a little surprised, he had absolute trust in Xiaoqin. Hence, he did not make a sound and watched quietly from the side. Nonsense. This is simply ridiculous. Xiaoqin, there must be something wrong with your brain. You should go see a doctor. Yu Lingchuan burst into laughter again. He laughed so hard that he could not catch his breath. He felt that Xiaoqin was a complete lunatic. He did not take his conditions seriously at all. I think you're the one with a punctured brain. Can't you tell that I'm not discussing with you but ordering you? Xiaoqin crossed his arms and looked down at Yu Lingchuan, enunciating each and every word clearly. What? You dare to threaten me? If I don't sign, can you still use force? Yu Lingchuan stared at Xiaoqin and retorted. Of course not. Old you really like to joke. This is a fair competition. How can I use force? Xiao Chen looked at him indifferently. Furthermore, you are an old cabbage. Even if I use force, there is no need for me to use it on you. You? Yu Lingchuan's smile disappeared. His face was filled with anger. He was very unhappy with Xiao Chen's sarcasm. He waved his hand and said, "All right, stop provoking me. How can I sign this kind of contract? If I want to sign it, I am an idiot. Why are you talking so much nonsense?" Xiao Chen stared at him impatiently. He slammed the table and roared, "Sign." Just as he said that, Yu Lingchuan's body suddenly trembled. He stood there blankly for a while. Then he picked up the pen with a blank look in his eyes. He slowly bent down and signed his name on the two contracts with the highest benefits and the supplementary agreement. The contract originally had Jia Muzin's name on it. Now that Yu Lingchuan signed, it meant that both parties had signed the contract. The contract was established. Jia Muzin was stunned. He thought to himself that this old fellow was quite humorous. No wonder he said so many useless things. Eating rice and not being able to stuff one's teeth. It was to prove that there was something wrong with his IQ. He was indeed an idiot. Chapter 1028. After signing his name and putting down his pen, Yu Lingchuan picked up the contract. Without waiting for Jia Muzin to react, he walked towards Jia Jinyan's direction. Just as Jia Muzin was about to call out to him, he was suddenly pulled by Xiao Chen. When he turned around, he saw Xiao Chen giving him a look. He immediately understood that Xiao Chen must have helped him secretly. He could not help but nod at him gratefully. Xiao Chen smiled slightly and turned to chase after Yu Lingchuan. Jia Muzin hurriedly followed behind him and excitedly went to report to Jia Jinyan. "Yo, isn't this steward you? Why did you personally send the contract over? These small errands, they can just let the younger generation do it for them." Jia Jinyan was a little surprised when he saw the figure walking over. Did this Yu Lingchuan eat the wrong medicine? Normally he had always been tyrannical in the Yu clan. Other than the Yu clan master, he did not give face to anyone. He was also very strong when it came to external cooperation. He was especially good at dragging. He could even drag people to madness. Among the Jia clan's people, other than Jia Yuto, Yu Lingchuan did not even look at them. But today he actually helped Jia Muzin to send the contract over. This really made Jia Jinyan's eyes pop out. Yu Lingchuan walked to the table and gave a simple nod before placing the contract on the table. Jia Jinyan lowered his head to take a look and saw that it was the highest standard contract. He happily praised, "Musin, not bad. This contract was completed beautifully." This actually... Facing Jia Jinyan's praise, Jia Muzin was a little hesitant. He had won this competition a little mysteriously. He did not know whether he should accept it or not. "Actually, Clan Master, you still haven't noticed," Xiao Chen interrupted and pointed to the additional contract at the back. He smiled and said, "Look, Senior, you not only signed the highest standard contract with Jia Muzin, he also agreed to some additional contracts. Please take a look." "Additional contracts?" Jia Jinyan was startled. He lowered his head and looked at the contract carefully. Only then did he realize that behind the original contract, there was an additional contract. On it were Jia Muzin and Yu Lingchuan's names. After reading through the details of the contract, Jia Jinyan sucked in a breath of cold air. His face was first filled with disbelief before it turned into ecstasy. He put down the contract and shook Yu Lingchuan's hand, thanking him from the bottom of his heart. "Manager Yu, you're too kind. I didn't expect you to agree to these additional conditions." "Ah?" Yu Lingchuan was slightly startled as he recovered his wits. His eyes regained their clarity as he looked at Jia Jinyan hesitantly. "What happened just now? Why is it that my brain seems to be out of control and I sign all the contracts as soon as I pick up the pen?" In the past, Caretaker Yu's attitude towards our Jia family was unclear. Now it seems like it was all a test. "Look at you, if you have any misgivings, just say it frankly." Jia Jinyan patted Yu Lingchuan's shoulder heavily. His smile was like a blossoming flower. "However, through this contract, I can already feel the Yu clan's sincerity in cooperating with us. We will definitely consider the long-term cooperation with the Yu clan. Don't worry, since I am still the clan master, I will definitely do what I say. I will definitely not go back on my words. Otherwise, I will not have a good ending." That. Yu Lingchuan's face scrunched up. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Jia Jinyan had already said so much. Could it be that he had to go back on his words and become the person who would not have a good ending? Actually, it's nothing much. Our three great clans should help each other. Yu Lingchuan took a deep breath and finally squeezed out a sentence from his throat with difficulty. Ah, caretaker Yu is really straightforward. Jia Jinyan laughed and said seriously, when the competition ends, don't be in a hurry to leave. I will treat you to a few drinks tonight. Firstly, it is to thank you for your recognition of Jia Muzin. Secondly, it is for the Jia and Yu clan to have a better cooperation in the future. I hope that caretaker Yu will do me the honor. There will be many opportunities for us to interact in the future. As long as he thought about the resources that the Yu clan would provide the Jia clan every year, Jia Jinyan felt as if he had drunk a glass of ice water on a hot day. Oh, all right. Yu Lingchuan didn't know what to say. He could only nod his head and return to his seat with a puzzled look on his face. After sitting down in a daze, Yu Lingchuan tried his best to recall what had happened. However, he could only remember Xiaoqin handing him a contract. After that, he was in a daze. Only after Jia Jinyan shook his hand and spoke to him did he realize what had happened. That's not right. What is going on? Could it be that I have a split personality? Yu Lingchuan frowned and thought hard. On the other side, Jia Jinyan looked at Jia Muzin with admiration. He patted his shoulder and said, Muzin, you did well. Go and rest first. After the competition ends, I will announce the results. And thank you, grandfather. At this point, the contract was considered settled. Jia Muzin smiled, turned around and walked to his resting place. However, he felt conflicted. On one hand, he felt that Jia Jinyan, as his grandfather, was a bit snobbish. In the past, when he wasn't of much help to the clan, Jia Jinyan didn't care about him at all. Now that he had just improved a little, Jia Jinyan's attitude changed. It really made him feel bitterly disappointed. However, on the other hand, from the perspective of a rational clan head, Jia Jinyan's attitude was understandable. After all, the clan head prioritized the clan's benefits and looked at the big picture. If he was too emotional, how could the Jia clan become one of the top 3 clans in the martial arts world? It would be difficult for them to even survive. They might have already been swallowed up by other clans. Although he was conflicted, Jia Muzin had a strong point, which was that he was open-minded and optimistic. The conflicting emotions only existed for a while before disappearing like smoke. Jia Muzin then thought of the additional contract, that was full of suspicious points. Seeing that there was no one nearby, Jia Muzin asked doubtfully, Xiaoqin, what kind of sorcery did you use just now? You actually made that old guy take the initiative to sign the contract. I thought that I would only get 1 point this time. This is a secret. I can't tell you for the time being. Xiaoqin smiled mysteriously. Moreover, I already said that I would help you. How could I just watch you sign the lowest contract and ignore it? In fact, the special ability of a cultivator was quite heaven-defying for ordinary cultivators. Moreover, it wasn't easy to explain. Therefore, Xiaoqin didn't intend to say it and chose to deliberately mystify things. Forget it if you don't want to say it. Anyway, I don't want to know. Isn't there a line in many movies, knowing too much is not good for you? Only a dead man can keep a secret. Jia Muzin shrugged his shoulders and said indifferently. Chapter 1029. Jia Muzin was already used to Xiaoqin's endless abilities. Since Xiaoqin didn't want to say it, he wouldn't force him. This was the basic trust he had for a good friend. You don't have to say anything else. In short, I can only promise you that I will use 100 spiritual jades to exchange for 5 kinds of natural treasures. There's no need to talk about anything else. I'll go to the bathroom first. As the two were chatting, a low voice suddenly came from the cubicle beside them. The sound of a chair being dragged could be heard. The two of them turned their heads and saw a middle-aged man walking out from behind the screen where Jia Renzhong was seated. He accidentally bumped into Jia Muzin's shoulder. Then, he glanced at Jia Muzin and left as if nothing had happened without apologizing. Jia Muzin didn't care too much about it. After the man left, he peeked through the screen and saw Jia Renzhong sitting there in a daze. His expression was somewhat dejected. It seemed that the negotiation wasn't going well. Jia Muzin had also heard the middle-aged man's words. He felt that this guy's train of thought was a little strange. Jia Muzin was quite familiar with the cooperation method of exchanging spiritual jades for natural treasures. In the market, 100 spiritual jades could be exchanged for 10 kinds of top-grade natural treasures. Usually, people would beg the Jia family to exchange for them. After all, high-grade spiritual jades were very rare and most of them were in the Jia family. Although there weren't many top-grade natural treasures in stock, there was no comparison between the two. The reason was that the difference in value between the two was quite large. Although they were both consumables compared to natural treasures, most sects and families were willing to choose high-grade spiritual jades. After all, 100 spiritual jades could be exchanged for a spot to enter the venerable secret realm. This was something that couldn't be exchanged for any amount of natural treasures. Although there was a chance of failure in upgrading, the more spots there were, the higher the chance of success, right? No matter which sect or family it was, they all hoped to have one more venerable under them. The more venerables a family had, the more authority they had. Therefore, the more spiritual jades they had, the better. However, from the tone of the middle-aged man just now, he didn't seem to care about spiritual jades at all. This was the key point that Jia Muzhen was puzzled about. Although Jia Muzhen could probably guess that there was something fishy going on, he felt that it had nothing to do with him, so he didn't plan on getting involved. Seeing that Jia Renzhong was the only one left and had yet to finish, a few of the branch family members gathered over. Jia Kechu was the first to speak. "Renzhong, why are you taking so long? Don't tell me you still haven't come to an agreement? They couldn't even settle such a simple contract. What a waste of resources. If it were me, I would have signed the highest contract already." "Exactly. I say, what's wrong with you? Don't tell me I can't even exchange for 10 heavenly treasures? The competition's deadline is almost here. Look, everyone has already finished. You're the only one left. If you still can't get it, it will be very embarrassing," Jia Shuluo said with a cheap smile. TSK. Don't make wild guesses. Perhaps the masses still have trump cards that they haven't used yet." Jia Shirlei put on a fake smile and said, "Just like yesterday when we were digging for the spiritual jades, none of us got any points. Only he got lucky and got 1 point with 4 spiritual jades. He won because of luck. Don't be jealous." "Sai Renzhong, this contract of yours is so simple. If it can't be signed with the highest contract, then it will really disappoint the old family head and us brothers. You're so useless. Just give up on this competition. Using 100 spiritual jades to actually not be able to exchange for 10 heavenly treasures, our Jia family can't afford to lose this face." Jia Raijing patted Jia Renzhong's shoulder and said with a sneer, "I won't give up. I must get this contract done." Jia Renzhong gripped the pen in his hand tightly. Although he felt very angry at the few people's ridicule, he still gritted his teeth and persevered. Persevering was persevering. Jia Renzhong was indeed a little puzzled in his heart. Why were spiritual jades so worthless in his hands? Other people could use this to exchange for more benefits, but he could only exchange for a mere 5 heavenly treasures. What the hell was going on? Jia Renzhong didn't know that before the competition started, Jia Yuto had already secretly stuffed a bag of spiritual jades into the middle-aged man's hands, so that he could only sign the contract with the lowest standard no matter what. That person accepted the spiritual jades and was naturally willing to help. Moreover, Jia Yuto had specially instructed him that after the matter was settled, there would be other rewards. Jia Yuto was originally their family's biggest partner. He was equivalent to a god of wealth. Of course, he wouldn't be stupid enough to not give the other party face. "Ah, I really don't know where you get the courage from. Do you still think that you can continue to be so lucky?" Jia Raijing ridiculed unscrupulously. The few collateral descendants couldn't help but burst into laughter. Their laughter was full of mockery. Everyone laughed a few times. Seeing that the middle-aged man had returned, Jia Kechu said to the others with an evil smile, "Let's go. Let's not hinder Jia Renzhong here. Maybe he still has a special, ultimate move. Later on he will use it and easily win this competition." The other collateral descendants also heard the ambiguity in Jia Raijing's words. They revealed a broken chrysanthemum, smile and winked at Jia Renzhong. Then they all exited the compartment. "Why are you still standing there in a daze? It's time for you to show off. Why don't you hurry up and help?" Seeing that the few silly collateral descendants had left, Xiaoqin hurriedly pushed Jia Muzhen, hinting him to go and help Jia Renzhong. "Ah, who am I going to help?" Jia Muzhen was really in a daze. Hearing Xiaoqin's words, he was stunned. He didn't understand Xiaoqin's intention and was still standing there in confusion. "Why can't your blockhead understand?" Xiaoqin said with an exasperated expression. "This person is Jia Hongyong's nephew. Naturally, you will take him as your disciple. If you help him at the critical moment when he successfully becomes an elder, there will be less resistance for you to become the family head in the future, right? Otherwise you will be the family head alone. The other elders will be Jia Huoyin and Jia Tuyao's fools. How will you win?" "But, it's useless for me to go." Jia Muzhen finally understood. His stunned expression turned into helplessness. Even if I want to help, I don't have the ability. How can that middle-aged man listen to me? If it weren't for you, I'm afraid I would only be able to get 1 point. Jia Muzhen also knew that he was alone. Although he had Xiao Chen's help, he couldn't help him for a lifetime. He had to take in a few trusted people. But then again, even if he wanted to cultivate trusted people, he felt that he didn't have the strength. The main reason was that there weren't many people in the Jia family who could listen to him. Previously, after he left, his sense of existence was even lower. What are you afraid of? Didn't you just say that you have me, the external help? You just have to go there and show off. Xiao Chen waved his hand and said lightly. Chapter 1030. Jia Muzhen scratched his head and said with a troubled expression, I've never done something like acting cool in my entire life. I'm usually quite low-key. What if I don't act well? Isn't it just acting cool? What's so difficult about it? In short, do it as high and mighty as you can. Have you read those web novels before? Learn from the protagonists in those books. They are all martial arts masters. As long as you show off your domineering aura, the other party will be scared to the point of peeing. Xiao Chen advised. Jia Muzhen recalled for a long time, but he still couldn't figure out how to do this domineering aura. With a distressed expression, he was about to ask Xiao Chen again when he was suddenly pushed from behind, directly into Jia Renzhong's compartment. Go ahead, act however you like. I'll help you clean up the mess. Don't worry about anything else. Xiao Chen was too lazy to wait for Jia Muzhen to understand, so he simply pushed him in. By the time he figured it out, Jia Renzhong's contract might have already been signed, and it would be too late. Jia Muzhen was shocked. He originally wanted to decline, but he found that he was already standing in the compartment. Jia Renzhong and the middle-aged man turned their heads to look at him with a puzzled expression. Jia Muzhen squeezed out a kind smile. Just as he was thinking about what to say, the middle-aged man opposite him spoke first. Who are you? What are you doing here? If there's nothing else, quickly leave. Don't hinder us from discussing serious matters. The middle-aged man looked Jia Muzhen up and down. When he saw Jia Muzhen's loser face, he thought that Jia Muzhen was just a friend of Jia Renzhong's, so he waved his hand impolitely to dismiss him. Young Master Muzhen, why are you here? Jia Renzhong was also a little surprised. He and Jia Muzhen usually didn't interact much, so he didn't understand why Jia Muzhen suddenly came here. Could it be that he was like Jia Inu and the others, deliberately coming over to mock him? Renzhong, how's the discussion going? Do you need me to help you coordinate? Since he was already here, Jia Muzhen could only bite the bullet and continue pretending. He ignored the middle-aged man and turned to Jia Renzhong with a faint smile. There shouldn't be a problem. Jia Renzhong was obviously not confident enough. Although he did not know what Jia Muzhen wanted to do, he still pointed at the middle-aged man and said, Let me introduce you. This is Elder Zhou of the Mysterious Traces sect. This is the Jia family's direct descendant, Jia Muzhen. Young Master Muzhen, we are almost done negotiating the contract. If you have something to do, why don't you wait until it's over? Don't waste my time. Before Jia Renzhong could finish, Elder Zhou cut him off impatiently. You better think about it carefully. Do you want to agree to my terms? It's getting dark and I'm still waiting for dinner. If you feel that the conditions are not suitable, then we might as well cancel the contract. Jia Renzhong's face flushed red. Just as he was about to argue, Jia Muzhen lightly pressed on his shoulder, signaling him not to be in a hurry to reply. Jia Muzhen, on the other hand, sat down and recalled how Xiao Chen usually pretended to be cool. Only then did he cross his legs and say, Elder Zhou, right? I heard everything you said just now. You mean that you want to use 5 heaven and earth treasures to exchange for 100 pieces of high-grade spiritual jade from the Jia family? May I ask if you slept well last night? I slept very well. Jia Muzhen's question changed so quickly that Elder Zhou could not react for a moment and answered subconsciously. Is that so? I think you didn't sleep very well. You're still daydreaming now. Jia Muzhen sneered and mocked. Who the hell do you think you are? How dare you talk back to me? Only then did Elder Zhou react. He was instantly enraged and slammed the table. He glared and scolded, If it wasn't for the Jia family's patriarch, I would have slapped you to death. Don't think that you're invincible just because you're a direct descendant. If you have nothing better to do, go away and stop messing around here. Oh, you've got some guts. Haven't you heard of me, Jia Muzhen, young Master Jia? Then why are you still negotiating the contract? Jia Muzhen had already gotten the hang of it. He retorted without showing any signs of weakness. How dare a trashy sect like the Mysterious Traces sect negotiate terms with the Jia family, one of the three major families? Let me tell you, if you don't sign the contract today, I'll bring my men and raze the Mysterious Traces sect to the ground tomorrow. Jia Renzhong was sweating profusely. Was this Jia Muzin here to help him or to cause trouble? He had tried to negotiate with Jia Muzin in a friendly manner, but Jia Muzin had rejected him. Now Jia Muzin had come to yell at him. Wasn't this pushing him into a pit of fire? You. Elder Zhou was so angry that his face turned purple. He pushed the table away and stood up. He glared at Jia Muzin and prepared to attack. Elder Zhou, please calm down. Please don't attack. Let's talk this through. Jia Renzhong panicked. He hurriedly pounced forward, trying to stop Elder Zhou from making a move. Although Jia Muzin did not have much confidence, he remembered that he had Xiao Qin backing him up. He persisted and sneered. Let go of him. I want to see if he dares to attack me. Young Master Muzin, please don't say any more. No matter which side is injured, I won't be able to explain myself. Jia Renzhong was on the verge of tears. He wanted to stop Jia Muzin's provocation, but he also wanted to stop Elder Zhou from making a move. He did not know what to do. In the face of imminent peril, he decided to grab hold of Elder Zhou and protect Jia Muzin. However, just as his hand was about to grab hold of Elder Zhou's sleeve, he suddenly felt Elder Zhou's body tremble. Elder Zhou's body sank, and the sleeve he had just grabbed was instantly released. Jia Renzhong thought that Elder Zhou had fallen for no reason. He was shocked. When he looked closely, he realized that Elder Zhou was kneeling on the ground. Young Master Muzin, you are a magnanimous person. Let's talk this out. Why do you have to resort to violence and harm our friendship? Elder Zhou, who was kneeling on the ground, said respectfully to Jia Muzin. Jia Muzin was startled. He immediately realized that it was Xiao Chen's doing. He calmed himself down and continued speaking in a deep voice. Don't talk to me about these useless things. Just say it. Are you going to sign the contract or not? I'll sign it. Right now. Right now. I'll sign it right now. Elder Zhou nodded his head in a flattering manner. He knelt there and searched for a pen on the table. Elder Zhou? This sudden turn of events caused Jia Renzhong to be dumbfounded. He thought that Elder Zhou was being sarcastic, so he called out tentatively. Renzhong, look at yourself. The future young master is speaking up for you. Why are you still being so courteous with me? I was too rude before. I'm sorry. Elder Zhou smiled so widely that his eyebrows could not be seen. He didn't care about anything else. He knelt on the ground and quickly signed his name on the contract. What was going on? Jia Renzhong was completely dumbfounded. How was Jia Muzin so awesome? The contract that he couldn't sign after negotiating for half a day was settled with just a few words from him. Chapter 1031. After Jia Renzhong's contract was handed in, the competition ended. Jia Jinyan carefully looked at all the contracts in his hand, and then filled in the scores of each person on the blank form. However, when he wrote down Jia Muzin's score, he lowered his head and pondered for a while, then added a few strokes at the end and finally nodded with satisfaction. Oh, okay. Jia Renzhong returned to his senses and looked down at the signed contract in his hand. The complex emotions in his heart were indescribable. Shock, ecstasy, excitement, gratitude, and so on. However, he also knew that this was not the time to thank Jia Muzin. He nodded his head, tightly grasped the contract, and hurriedly ran in the direction of Jia Jinyan. The other collateral descendants were also very unwilling to give up. They all stared at Jia Renzhong, wishing that they could directly pounce on him and bite him to death. Is everyone here? Then let me first announce the scores of your contracts. Seeing that everyone was here, Jia Jinyan glanced at the audience and said in a deep voice, First, the direct descendants. Jia Huoyan gets 2 points, Jia Tuyao gets 3 points, Jia Muzin gets 3 points. Next, the collateral descendants. Jia Quinyu gets 1 point, Jia Sholu gets 1 point, Jia Shirlei gets 2 points, Jia Raijing gets 2 points, Jia Renzhong gets 3 points. Tiao, do you think that those who have made contributions to the family should not receive extra rewards? Jia Jinyan frowned and his face darkened. Obviously he was a little angry. All the contestants, gather here. Wait for the family head to announce the results of the competition. Uncle Gue, who was standing beside Jia Jinyan, received the signal from the family head and shouted to everyone loudly. This. Jia Tuyao keenly felt his grandfather's anger. Looking at the additional contract on the table, he rolled his eyes and quibbled, Grandpa, I didn't mean that. It's just that when you made the rules this morning, you didn't say that additional contracts could get extra points. Otherwise, if I had known it in advance, I would have signed the same contract, and the conditions would definitely be much better than Jiamuzin's. Damn, what kind of dog shit luck does Jiamuzin have? We have suppressed him so much, but he can still get 3 points. Jia Huoyin fiercely glared at Jiamuzin and clenched his fist. His expression was one of anger. He never expected that he, the dignified young master of the Jia clan, would actually lose 2 matches in a row. This was simply a great humiliation. A few collateral disciples who were sitting not far away and waiting to watch a good show were also stunned when they saw this scene. They all knew that Jia Yuto had secretly bribed Elder Zhou. That was why they deliberately went to Jia Renzhong's place to humiliate him, waiting to see him make a fool of himself. Seeing this, Jia Shirlei and Jia Raijing couldn't help but glance at each other, then simultaneously stood up, ran to Jia Tuyao and complained, "Young Master Tuyao, Zhou sold us out. Jia Renzhong will definitely get 3 points now. What should we do?" In addition, Jiamuzin signed a long-term contract with the clan for a small price of 50 pieces of spirit jades. While speaking, Jia Jinyan took out the additional contract, put it on the table and showed it in front of everyone. The value of this contract is quite high. Therefore, I have decided, on the basis of the original 3 points, I will give Jiamuzin an additional contribution point. Although Jia Huoyin and Jia Tuyao's voices were very low, Jia Jinyan still heard them clearly. He indifferently glanced at the two of them, not caring about their dissatisfied attitude. Instead, he cleared his throat and was about to announce another decision. He couldn't understand why Jiamuzin could get the highest contract. Elder Zhou was unreliable, so be it. Why did even you Lingchuan fail? Are you all F***king kidding me? He was already extremely unhappy with the fact that he and Jiamuzin had jointly obtained 3 points in this round. Now, an additional contract had been inexplicably created, giving Jiamuzin an extra point for no reason. How could he agree to it? If Jia Tuyao didn't put the clan's interests first and only cared about the difference in the match, then Jia Jinyan felt that he didn't have the qualifications to be the clan leader. Because he didn't have the corresponding magnanimity. Turning around, he found that it was Jia Qingchu and Jia Raijing who were staring at him. Instantly, he felt ashamed and didn't know how to explain. How could he dare to wait for the meal? Hurriedly, he stood up and ran out of the Jia family's courtyard in a panic. What the F***ck? Jiamuzin got 3 points? How is this possible? Jia Tuyao blurted out in disbelief. What happened? What did I do just now? After handing over the contract, Elder Zhou also broke free from Xiao Chen's control. He woke up in a daze, his expression blank. When he recalled what he had done earlier, he could not help but feel confused. Forget it. I knew that guy was unreliable. Jia Tuyao waved his hand gloomily. It's okay. Now I got 3 points for sure. The other people's points are definitely not as high as mine. As long as I win the next round against Jiamuzin, I will definitely take over the position of the clan leader. At that time, I will promote you guys to the position. However, unexpectedly, after a quarrel, Elder Zhou suddenly knelt down and signed the contract. What kind of trick is he playing? Did he just casually sign his name to fool Jia Renzhong? I object. As soon as Jia Jinyan finished his words, Jia Tuyao immediately jumped up and fiercely objected, disregarding his respect for the clan leader. However, when they turned around and saw the appreciative look in Jia Jinyan's eyes when Jia Renzhong handed over the contract, they knew that things were not as they had imagined. This guy surnamed Zhou had really sold them out. Regarding Elder Zhou's betrayal, Jia Tuyao didn't care too much. He thought that he had already won. When he became the clan leader, he would have the final say on the distribution of power, wouldn't he? It didn't matter who the elder was. This. Elder Zhou blinked his eyes. Before he could figure out what was going on, he suddenly felt that several resentful eyes were staring at him from not far away, as if there were thorns on his back. And it was signed according to the highest contract. Could it be that this was the real strength of Jiamuzin, who had always been low-key? Elder Zhou, your legs are numb, right? You've worked hard. There's nothing for you to do here. Go find a place to rest. Later, when the meal is ready, someone will inform you. Jiamuzin coldly glanced at Elder Zhou and didn't want to talk to him anymore. He turned around and went with Xiao Qin to wait for the result of the match. That's more like it. What were you doing earlier? Why did you make me unhappy and get scolded before you signed the contract? What a cheap wretch. Jiamuzin snorted, looked at the contract, and after confirming that there were no mistakes, he handed it to Jia Renzhong and said, It's done. Hurry up and hand over the contract. If you delay any longer, the match will be over. Before long, all the direct descendants and collateral descendants gathered in front of the stage where Jia Jinyan was standing. Chapter 1032. Yeah. I also think that Jia Muzin is just taking advantage of the situation. If I had known that this kind of additional contract could add points, I would have signed 3 or 5 of them, let alone one. Jia Huoyan muttered unhappily. Although he didn't want to speak for Jia Tuyao, as the saying went, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. As long as he could make Jia Muzin suffer a loss, there was no harm in cooperating with him for the time being. Jia Jinyan stared blankly for a moment. He felt that what the two of them said made sense, and a look of hesitation appeared on his face. It was true that he had not taken the rules into consideration. If he had made the rules more detailed, he would not have caused so much trouble. Jia Muzin was immediately filled with anger when he heard the two people objecting to him. He clenched his fists tightly, but before Jia Jinyan said anything, he didn't dare to say anything. He could only remain silent with a livid face. You two idiots! Did you grow up imitating Big Wolf? Why are you so retarded? Xiaoqin rolled his eyes at them and said impatiently, don't you know that you have to be flexible when doing business? Do you think that everything has to be explained clearly in advance and then you know how to carry it out? Then what's the use of you? Even an underground sweeper knows how to do it. Looking at Jia Huoyan and Jia Tuyao's dirty faces, Xiaoqin was angry. If it weren't for the fact that he had to consider Jia Muzin's feelings in the Jia family's territory, he would have already rushed over and beaten them up. This is the Jia family's business. Since when did an outsider like you have the right to butt in? Get out of my sight. Jia Tuyao was scolded for no reason. He was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. He didn't want to pretend to be a good person anymore, and directly shouted at Xiaoqin. That's right. You're just a foreign aide. You have no right to criticize the Jia family. I just gave you some face and you really think you're somebody? Jia Huoyan echoed. Oh, according to your stupid logic, next time I see you killed by a car on the street, I don't need to call the Jia family to collect your bodies, right? Xiaoqin crossed his arms in front of his chest, stared at Jia Huoyan and Jia Tuyao as if they were idiots and sneered coldly. F***ck, you're courting death. Jia Tuyao's hair stood on end. He immediately waved his hand towards Bai Songyan and yelled furiously, Songyan, kill this suicidal thing right now. I will take responsibility for all the consequences. Jia Huoyan was similarly furious. He also gave Tang Yuanxing a look, indicating that he should rush over and cooperate with Bai Songyan to kill Xiaoqin. All of you stop. Just as Bai Songyan and Tang Yuanxing moved, Jia Jinyan slammed the table heavily and shouted. He instantly displayed the strength of a great perfection martial honor. His strong martial chi formed a pressure that surged toward the crowd. Feeling the immense pressure, Bai Songyan and Tang Yuanxing hurriedly stopped in their tracks. Their backs were drenched in cold sweat as they secretly exclaimed in their hearts, that was close. Fortunately, he did not act rashly. Otherwise, he would have been severely injured by the old master and might even have died under his palm. Jia Huoyan and Jia Tuyao were also startled. Their arrogance was instantly suppressed. All these years they had never seen their grandpa so angry. The last time he was so angry was almost 10 years ago. On the other hand, Xiaoqin did not move at all. His expression was very calm. Although the pressure released by Jia Jinyan also made it hard for him to breathe, Xiaoqin did not show any fear. He still stood there calmly, for he did not want to be looked down upon. Jia Jinyan looked at Xiaoqin coldly. He was slightly surprised in his heart. He slowly retracted the martial chi that he was releasing and warned him word by word. Xiaoqin, seeing that you are a junior and the external help that Jia Muzin invited, I won't bicker with you. However, I still hope that you will behave yourself and do not insult the Jia family again. Otherwise, no matter what kind of background you have, I will not show you any mercy. Xiaoqin indifferently shrugged, indicating that he had heard it. He did not intend to argue with Jia Jinyan. Firstly, he did not want to get Jia Muzin involved. Secondly, he did not want to provoke Jia Jinyan. If Jia Jinyan started a fight with him, he would have to flee for his life again. Moreover, this time he would have to run with 4 girls. It would definitely be very troublesome. Jia Muzin's expression was very serious, while Jia Tuyao and Jia Huoyan were very happy. Seeing Xiaoqin being humiliated, they were happier than anyone else. However, before they could be happy for long, Jia Jinyan turned around, glared at them and scolded, both of you stop. During the family competition, everyone is staring at our Jia family. Do you really want to make a fool of yourself in front of everyone? The Jia family cannot afford to lose face like this. Jia Tuyao and Jia Huoyan's happy expression immediately froze on their faces. The corners of their mouths twitched stiffly, and they awkwardly lowered their heads. Seeing that both of them were speechless, Jia Jinyan no longer scolded them. Instead, he turned to the crowd and said loudly, "I declare that in this competition Jia Tuyao and Jia Muzin, the direct descendants, will each get 3 points for the head of the family, and the collateral descendants Jia Renzhong will get 3 points for the elders. As for the rest of the people, they will each get 2 points or 1 point according to the standard of the contract. Does anyone else have any objection?" After witnessing Jia Jinyan's strength, even those who had objections shut their mouths sensibly at this time. Seeing that no one had any objection, Jia Jinyan stood up and said in a deep voice, "The third competition will start at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning in the Jia family's martial arts hall. Alright, go back and prepare." After saying that, Jia Jinyan put away the contract on the table, gave Xiao Chen a meaningful glance, and then left the parlor with his trusted subordinates. Humph! Jia Huoyan and Jia Tuyao snorted coldly, glared at Xiao Chen and Jia Muzin, then left with their subordinates and collateral descendants. Xiao Chen didn't care about their hostility at all. When he was about to leave with Jia Muzin, he suddenly heard Elder Heaven Ancestor's words in his mind, "Humph, that Jia kid is really good at pretending." Obviously, his internal injuries haven't healed yet, but he still dared to forcibly release his warrior chi. Is he tired of living? What? Elder Heaven Ancestor, who did you say was injured? Xiao Chen was confused. Is that kid Jia Jinyan? Can't you see it? Elder Heaven Ancestor asked back. Really? Xiao Chen was stunned. After thinking for a while, he really couldn't find any clues. I can't see it. I felt that he was quite good just now, there was nothing wrong with him. That's why I say that juniors like you are inexperienced. If he wasn't injured, with his martial honored realm strength, the pressure that he released would have already pressed all of you to the ground. Elder Heaven Ancestor sighed and analyzed methodically. Just now, I felt a faint fluctuation in his warrior chi. I think it's because his old injuries haven't healed yet, so he can't release his full strength. Chapter 1033. Maybe he just wanted to save everyone some face so he didn't use his full strength? After all, a few of his grandsons were here and there were also reinforcements from other clans. If he used too much strength, everyone would kneel on the ground like dumplings. Wouldn't that be inappropriate in front of everyone? Xiao Chen thought of another reason. Sai, uncultured people are really scary. Let me explain to you. The Elder Heaven Ancestor patiently explained, when you're extremely angry and about to explode, do you feel like your mind is blank? Yes, there's a saying that goes, anger has gone to the head. Isn't that what it means? But what does this have to do with injuries? Xiao Chen was like a humble student asking for advice. You might not know this, but when humans are angry, not only will their minds be blank, the martial chi in their body will also be completely out of control for a few seconds. It's the same for cultivators and cultivators alike. The Elder Heaven Ancestor explained at length, if he wasn't injured, forget about making you kneel, he could even make you lie on the ground. The fact that you were able to hold on just now means that his current full strength is only at that level. It's obvious that his martial chi has been restricted by his internal injuries. The full circle martial honorable that he is displaying is just an empty shell. I see. I was wondering why I was completely fine just now. I thought that my body's resistance had increased after becoming a martial honorable. Xiao Chen finally understood and nodded his head. He then asked, then is his internal injury serious? He wouldn't die before the competition is over, would he? If that's the case, I can just use force to make Jia Muzin the clan leader, right? You're dreaming. I think he'll be completely healed in a year or two. The Elder Heaven Ancestor replied casually. He then remembered something else and instructed, oh right, think of a way to get more spiritual jades. The Yuan Qi in your body is not enough to break through to the original infant stage. You need spiritual jades to level up. Holy shit, why didn't you say so earlier? Otherwise, I could have directly asked Jia Hongyong for them in the Tianyu mine that day. Xiao Chen immediately complained to the heavens. Where could he find spiritual jades in such a short time? He couldn't possibly steal from the Jia family's warehouse, could he? It would be terrible if he was discovered. You think I don't want to say it? In order to successfully break through in one go, I have already stored too much vital energy in your body. If you are not careful, you will easily go berserk and explode. Unfortunately, this vital energy is not enough for you to break through. I have to maintain the vital energy and calculate how many more spirit jades you need to advance. Do you think it is as easy as playing house? The Elder Heaven Ancestor retorted in a bad mood. Alright. I was wrong, alright? How many spirit jades do I need this time? I'll find a way to do it. Xiaoqun smiled bitterly and shook his head. About 100 or so. That's it for the time being. If there is nothing important, don't look for me. If I am distracted, you will easily explode and die. The Elder Heaven Ancestor hurriedly dropped this sentence and did not reply again. Xiaoqun sighed helplessly. The last sentence of the Elder Heaven Ancestor made him break out in a cold sweat. Didn't this mean that he was carrying a bomb in his body? Moreover, he didn't know when it would explode? This was simply too deceptive. Oh no, it was a deceptive disciple. Moreover, where was he going to find so many spirit jades in such a short period of time? Looking for Jia Muzhen was definitely out of the question. Xiaoqun also didn't want to involve him again. If he was caught again, it would be troublesome. After thinking about it, Xiaoqun felt that it was better to wait for Jia Muzhen to stabilize his position as the successor. Then he would find a way to ask him for some spirit jades. For the time being, he should not think about advancing. Young Master Mu Sen, thank you so much for what you did just now. As Xiaoqun was thinking, Jia Rinzhong ran over and bowed to Jia Muzhen. If it wasn't for your help in the negotiations, I definitely wouldn't have been able to achieve such a good result. We are all descendants of the Jia family. It is only right for me to help you. There is no need to be so polite. Jia Muzhen waved his hand. He was a little embarrassed. In fact, it was Xiaoqun who had helped out earlier. It had nothing to do with him. Therefore, he felt ashamed to accept it. Young Master Mu Sen, if you need my help in the future, just say the word. I promise I won't let you down. Jia Rinzhong was not an untactful person. He naturally understood the meaning behind Jia Muzhen's help. He immediately made a solemn vow and promised. Hehe, you can call me Jia Muzhen or Mu Senator. Calling me Young Master sounds awkward. Jia Muzhen naturally wouldn't refuse. He smiled and replied politely. How can that be? You are a direct descendant. I don't dare to break the rules. Jia Rinzhong waved his hand. Jia Muzhen didn't say anything else. He smiled and said, all right, you can go back and rest. There is still a competition tomorrow. You have to work hard and take the position of an elder. Jia Rinzhong nodded and said with a silly smile, all right, then I will leave first. If you have any problems, come find me. See you tomorrow. Looking at Jia Rinzhong's gradually disappearing figure, Xiaoqun patted Jia Muzhen's shoulder and said, not bad, not bad. It seems that this little brother is determined to follow you. Next, it will depend on how you use him. Isn't that all thanks to you? Jia Muzhen sighed and walked out side by side with Xiaoqun. We are brothers. There is no need to distinguish between us. Xiaoqun laughed and casually probed, that's right, just now your grandfather's aura was very strong. People who have reached his level, do they not have any illnesses? It should be. I don't think I have ever seen him sick or injured. Jia Muzhen shook his head. Recalling the scene of his grandfather's anger just now, he still felt a little scared. He frowned and said, but Xiaoqun, you were a little rash just now. If my grandfather really attacked in anger, I reckon that both of us would suffer. I'm afraid that we might even implicate Qing Menjing and the others. Don't worry. I know what I'm doing. Seeing that he couldn't probe anything, Xiaoqun changed the topic. That's right. Tomorrow's competition is set in the martial arts field. It sounds like they are going to be serious. It should be a direct fight. If you are not sure, don't go. Let me deal with those two idiots. For tomorrow's competition, Xiaoqun was indeed cautious. Although he won the first two matches, it could only be regarded as a narrow victory. Jia Tuyao and Jia Huoyin weren't completely good-for-nothing playboys, they both had their own schemes and plans. If he hadn't been one step ahead, he might have been tricked by them. Therefore, he didn't want Jia Muzhen to have an accident in the last round. How can I do that? If I rely on your help in every match, won't I become a useless person? Jia Muzhen shook his head and said, moreover, Jia Huoyin and Jia Tuyao are not idiots. Now that I am in the lead, they will definitely not let go of this opportunity. They will definitely think of many ways to mess with me. Chapter 1034. Humph, with me here they won't have the chance to show off. Xiaoqun said with a disdainful look. The two of them chatted as they walked. They had been busy the entire day and felt hungry, so they went to have dinner together. Then they returned to Mu Sen's courtyard. Xiaoqun went back and chatted with the girls for a while. He described what had happened today and then entered a dual cultivation state. On the other side, Jia Huoyin and Jia Tuyao didn't sleep for the whole night. Once they returned to the yard, they called their father and other powerful helpers over, gathered in Jia Tuyao's room, and secretly discussed something. The door of the room was tightly closed for the whole night. It was not until an hour before the competition began that they hurriedly came out of the room. Fortunately, they were all warriors, so it wouldn't be a problem even if they didn't sleep all night. The Jia family's martial arts practice field was usually used for the Jia family's guards to train. In addition to patrolling and guarding, they would also come here to train with each other. As for the direct descendants and collateral descendants, they all had their own training places in their own residences, so they usually disdained to come here to train with the guards. Before 8 o'clock in the morning, the martial arts practice field was already crowded with onlookers. These people knew that the family's disciples would compete here today, so they all wanted to join in the fun. Some even wondered if they could learn one or two moves by the way. The direct descendants and collateral descendants also arrived at the martial arts practice field before 8 o'clock, and stood in front of Jia Jinyan with the external experts, patiently waiting for the competition to begin. Now that everyone is here, I will announce the rules of the competition. Jia Jinyan sat on a high platform with a computer in front of him. He looked around at the people in the middle of the martial arts practice field and said in a deep voice, "Today's competition is divided into several parts, including the internal competition of the family and the external competition. The first part in the morning is the internal competition." After a short pause, Jia Jinyan continued, "The internal competition is divided into individual lot drawing competition and challenge competition. The first one is the individual lot drawing competition. The direct descendants and collateral descendants will fight together, and the winner will get 1 point and the loser will not get any points. After the first round of competition, all the winners will be mixed together, and the lot drawing competition will be held again. The scoring system will remain the same, understand?" "Understood." Everyone below the stage shouted in unison. However, Jia Rinzhong's voice was a bit shaky. His strength was not that great, so he was a bit afraid. If his luck was bad and he was matched against a direct descendant, then he could only admit defeat. Jia Jinyan nodded his head and said, "This competition is an individual competition within the family. Only direct descendants and collateral descendants are allowed to participate in the competition. Outsiders are not allowed to provide any help. Anyone who violates the rules will be disqualified." Jia Jinyan glanced around with dignity. He signaled his trusted aide to press a few keys, then stood up, pointed to the screen behind him and said loudly, "Next, we'll start drawing lots immediately. The drawing mechanism relies on the computer, and the results are completely random. The opponent will be displayed on the big screen. Now you can start warming up." Everyone agreed and dispersed, each doing their own warm-up exercises. However, their eyes were all fixed on the big screen, and a few of them almost bumped into each other. The big screen soon showed the list of the first round's matchups. The first match was between Jia Rinzhong and Jia Shouqi, the second was between Jia Tuyao and Jia Kuqi, the third was between Jia Huoyin and Jia Ruijing, and the fourth was between Jia Muzin and Jia Shirlei. Xiaoqun looked at the big screen, then turned to Jia Muzin and said with a smile, "You and Jia Rinzhong have good luck. The opponents you drew are all weak chickens. It seems that you don't need my help in the first round of competition." Actually, Jia Muzin's expression was quite helpless. "In fact, I'm not that powerful. The cultivation resources of my Jia family are all controlled by my two uncles, Jia Yudo and Jia Yubian. Since I was pushed out of the circle of direct descendants of the Jia family, even my cultivation resources have been greatly reduced. Therefore, although Jia Huoyin and Jia Tuyao have already reached the level of martial king, I'm still stuck at the level of general. So, those collateral descendants may be more powerful than you?" Xiaoqun frowned. This situation was a bit out of his expectation. Originally, he did not want to use his mental power to control others too frequently, but it seemed that he had no choice but to use it. That's not necessarily true. Jia Muzin glanced at the few collateral descendants who had gathered together and said indifferently, "Before I left the Jia clan, it was more than enough to deal with those collateral descendants who came to find trouble. Even if they had more cultivation resources, they only had 1 more year of accumulation than me. I reckon that their strength would at most be on par with mine." Xiaoqun pondered for a while. When he was about to reply, he suddenly saw a middle-aged man jump onto the ring in the middle of the martial arts arena. It was Uncle Gue, Jia Jinyan's trusted follower. He was the referee appointed to arbitrate this competition. Uncle Gue glanced around and said loudly, The first round of competition is about to begin. Participants Jia Renzhong and Jia Shoulei, please come onto the stage. The arena immediately quieted down. Everyone's eyes were focused on the two people. After hearing the instructions, Jia Shoulei did a beautiful somersault and jumped onto the ring. The guards who were watching from the outside saw that his appearance was very eye-catching and couldn't help but applaud. Jia Shoulei proudly cupped his hands towards the surrounding people, then gave Jia Renzhong a provocative look. Ah! Xiao Qin almost burst into tears from laughing. This joker, does he think he is performing on the streets? Is he going to say after the fight that those who have money will support the stage and those who don't have money will support the stage? On the other side, Jia Renzhong conformed to the rules. He seemed to be a little nervous as he carefully walked onto the ring. He subconsciously glanced at Jia Muzhen. Jia Muzhen nodded at him encouragingly. Jia Renzhong closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Then he walked towards Uncle Gue. Participants are in position. Both of you please listen carefully. In this competition, no killing moves are allowed. As long as your opponent is knocked unconscious or knocked off the ring, you will win. If one party voluntarily admits defeat, then the other party is not allowed to attack without permission. Otherwise you will be disqualified. Uncle Gue warned with a solemn expression. Jia Renzhong and Jia Shoulei nodded, indicating that they understood. Uncle Gue shouted, "Competition begins," and quickly retreated far away. The two of them took a stance and circulated their mental cultivation techniques. They revealed their strength and confronted each other. Impressively, they were both experts of the 9th layer of the martial general realm. Jia Shoulei was slightly startled. It was obvious that he was surprised that Jia Renzhong had the same strength as him. Therefore he didn't rush to attack. Instead he stood there and prepared to remain still. Jia Renzhong, on the other hand, was a little impatient. With a loud shout, he rushed towards Jia Shoulei and swung his palm towards his shoulder. Chapter 1035. Your posture is pretty good, but is that all you've got? Jia Shoulei sneered and dodged Jia Renzhong's attack easily. Jia Renzhong didn't hesitate and quickly turned around to kick Jia Shoulei's thigh. He was full of vigor, but his intention was too obvious and was easily dodged by Jia Shoulei. Jia Renzhong's next few attacks were casually dodged or resolved by Jia Shoulei. Jia Renzhong was impatient, so he messed up his tactics. He simply attacked randomly, but it was of no use at all. Sigh. This Jia Renzhong kid can't do it. Look at what he's aiming at. He's only aiming at unimportant parts. Furthermore, the more he fights, the messier it gets. While attacking, he's exposing a lot of openings. I reckon it won't be long before he's beaten to the ground. Xiao Qin could not help but sigh as he watched Jia Renzhong's clumsy way of attacking. That's normal. This kid usually works alone and trains by himself. It's probably because he doesn't have enough combat experience, so he doesn't dare to aim at the vital parts like the chest and head. Jia Muzhen guessed the reason behind it. Otherwise, if he's too heavy-handed and kills his opponent, it won't be worth it to be disqualified. What's there to be afraid of? Xiao Qin shrugged and said without a care in the world, if I really beat him to death, I'll just control the dead man again. He can still talk and walk, so he definitely won't be disqualified. Then I'll let him perform a XX flight and commit suicide in front of everyone. Easy for you to say. Jia Muzhen quietly said, if that person's chest has a big hole or his head is blown off, it's useless even if you control him. Don't tell me you're shooting a zombie movie with special effects? Xiao Qin touched his nose and was speechless. What Jia Muzhen said made sense. He had never encountered such a situation before, so he wasn't sure if a dead person could be controlled. Bang! Xiao Qin wanted to continue teasing Jia Muzhen, but suddenly, a muffled sound came from the stage. The Jia people had been attacking for a long time without any success. Their mood was slightly anxious and they were a little careless. Jia Shoulei took advantage of their weakness and sent them flying with a kick. When Xiao Qin and Jia Muzhen turned their heads to look, they just happened to see Jia Shou grabbing Jia Renzhong and heavily striking his lower abdomen a few times. Then, with a swing of his hand, Jia Renzhong directly fell to the ground. Jia Renzhong's face turned green and he grimaced in pain. Both of his hands clutched his lower abdomen, unable to catch his breath for a long time. You're really too useless. I just casually hit you a few times and you're lying there like a dead dog. There's really no sense of accomplishment in dealing with a rookie like you. You'd better admit defeat quickly. Don't waste everyone's time, we're all very busy. Jia Shou Luo swaggered over and stood in front of the Jia people. He looked down at them and sneered. Cough cough. I can still fight, Jia Renzhong said with difficulty. He clenched his teeth and tried to stand up. Although his internal organs were in pain as if they were being torn apart, he was very unwilling and didn't want to admit defeat. Furthermore, he had just acknowledged Jia Muzhen as his boss. Now Jia Muzhen was watching from below the stage. If he suffered a miserable defeat in the first match and left the stage with his tail between his legs without a single point, then his boss would definitely be disappointed in him. TSK, what a cheap life. Since you're so stubborn, then I'll fulfill your wish. Jia Luo was very disdainful of Jia Renzhong's final struggle. He smiled contemptuously and lifted his leg to kick him. He planned to directly knock him out or kick him off the stage. Bang! Ah! Jia Renzhong had no ability to resist. After being kicked by Jia Luo, he felt a sharp pain in his chest. With a blood-curdling scream, his entire body flew out. Just as he was about to fly out of the stage, he didn't know if it was a subconscious reaction, but he suddenly extended his right hand and grabbed onto a protrusion at the edge of the stage. He managed to stabilize his body at the edge of the stage and didn't fall off. Yo, your luck isn't bad. You actually didn't fall off? Jia Luo was a little surprised. His strength should have been enough to send him flying. Under his astonishment, he walked over to take a look. He discovered that Jia Renzhong had grabbed onto the position of the stage. It just so happened that there was a point of strength. No wonder he could still hold on. Jia Luo sneered. He lifted his leg and ruthlessly stepped on his right hand. He said impatiently, "Hurry up and get off. What's the point of shamelessly dragging on? Are you a mangy dog?" Hiss. As the saying goes, the 10 fingers are linked to the heart. At this moment, a piercing pain came from his right hand. Jia Renzhong couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. The corner of his mouth twitched a little, but he still didn't have any intention of letting go. He still silently clenched his teeth and persisted. Seeing this scene, Jia Muzhen was so angry that his entire body was trembling. He couldn't help but rush to the edge of the stage and yell, "Jia Luo, aren't you going too far? We are all children of the Jia family. Is there a need to be so extreme?" Yo, our young Master Muzhen is distressed? Actually, I didn't want to do this. But who knew that this brat's donkey's temper was so stubborn? Why don't you let him take the initiative to admit defeat? That way he won't have to suffer any more physical pain. Jia Luo didn't take Jia Muzhen seriously. He had an evil smile on his face. Uncle Gue, don't tell me that as the referee you don't care? Jia Luo is clearly breaking the rules. Jia Muzhen was furious, but he couldn't do anything to Jia Luo. He could only clench his fist and turn his head to shout at the nearby Uncle Gue. Young Master Muzhen, I have already explained the rules very clearly. Jia Luo didn't break the rules. Therefore, I have no right to interfere with him. Uncle Gue remained unmoved and indifferently replied. Muzhen, I think you shouldn't meddle in other people's business. You should think more about your own situation. Jia Huoyin sat on the stage and mocked in a lukewarm tone. That's right. Uncle Gue has been by Grandpa's side for so long. Do you think he needs you to teach him how to do things? Stop messing around, just go somewhere cool. Sitting on the other side of the stand, Jia Tuyao taunted Ji Hao with a sarcastic tone as well. Ah. Jia Muzhen's heart was extremely cold towards this group of scum who disregarded their family ties. Just as he was about to open his mouth to refute, another scream came from Jia Renzhong on the stage. His arm was once again ruthlessly kicked by Jia Luo. It seemed that his arm had already been fractured. He hung limply on the stage and seemed to be on the verge of collapse. Renzhong, why don't you give up? If you continue like this, your right arm will be crippled. Jia Muzhen couldn't bear to do this. He also knew that Jia Renzhong valued this opportunity very much. He wanted to climb up through the cracks, but the price he had to pay was too high. Young Master Muzhen, I can still hold on. You don't have to. Before Jia Renzhong's voice faded away, he was once again heavily kicked by Jia Luo. His right arm finally powerlessly drooped down. His body lost its support and quickly slid down the stage. Chapter 1036. Haha. If you fell down earlier you wouldn't have to suffer so much. I really didn't know you. What? Jia Shou crossed his arms as he watched Jia Renzhong fall off the stage. Just as he was spouting nonsense with a face full of pride, he suddenly felt a pulling force from his feet, forcefully dragging him down. What everyone did not expect was that unknowingly, Jia Shou Jin's right leg had actually been firmly grabbed by Jia Renzhong's left hand. Just now, his thoughts were wandering and he was caught off guard, which was why his entire person was brought down the stage. Bang bang. The sound of two heavy objects landing on the ground could be heard. Jia Rinzhong and Jia Shou both fell to the ground, causing a cloud of dust to rise. The two of them didn't get up for a long time. Jia Rinzhong was injured, so he didn't immediately stand up. Jia Shou was in a daze from the fall and couldn't react for a moment. After being stunned for a while, Jia Shou regained his senses. He immediately flew into a rage, stood up and roared, F***CK, you still want to drag someone down with you when you're about to die, right? See if I don't kill you. As he roared, Jia Shou rushed towards Jia Rinzhong. However, before he could reach him, he was stopped by Jia Muzhen. Is that enough? This isn't a competition. If you dare to take another step forward, don't blame me for being impolite. Jia Muzhen glared at Jia Rinzhong and stood in front of him. Since Jia Rinzhong had become his underling, then he should act like a big brother. Just now, it wasn't convenient to make a move during the competition. If he allowed Jia Shou to show off now, then he would be a coward. Don't be too proud. I want to see how long you can protect him. Jia Shou paused for a moment. He didn't plan to clash with Jia Muzhen for the time being, so he casually threw out some harsh words. With a flip, he jumped back onto the stage. Jia Shou respectfully said to Uncle Gue, Uncle Gue, did you see it just now? It was Jia Rinzhong, that kid who fell down first and then pulled me off the stage. Therefore, I am the winner of this competition. This. Uncle Gue hesitated. To be honest, he didn't see it too clearly just now, so it wasn't easy to make a judgment immediately. He had to ask for Jia Jinyan's opinion. Jia Jinyan also did not immediately come to a conclusion. Instead, he discussed it with his trusted aide for a while. Then, the two of them operated the computer and played the fight between the two of them. They stared at the screen for a few minutes, replaying the fight at a certain time. It seemed that they were meticulously proofreading a certain detail. Jia Shouxing, who was anxiously waiting below the stage, was a little anxious. He didn't know why they were still discussing for so long. He was obviously the winner of that round just now. This old master must have gone senile. On the other hand, Jia Muzhen and Xiao Qin did not care about this. The two of them carefully carried Jia Rinzhong to the side for treatment. Fortunately, Jia Rinzhong's injuries were not too serious. It was just that the bones in his right hand were slightly dislocated. Other than that, there were no other major problems. As long as he received proper treatment, it would not take long for him to fully recover. I announce. After a while, Jia Jinyan and his cronies finally confirmed the final result, stood up and shouted. When everyone's gazes gathered on him, Jia Jinyan cleared his throat and announced the result that made everyone's jaw drop. The winner of the first round is Jia Rinzhong. What? Jia Shouxing, who was about to cheer for his victory, swallowed back his words and stood dumbfounded on the spot. He thought that there was something wrong with his ears. When he turned his head and saw that everyone else also had a surprised look on their faces, he realized that he really did not mishear it. Immediately, he angrily stomped his feet and said, "This is impossible. The winner is obviously me. How could it be that Jia Rinzhong kid? I don't accept this. I object." Jia Huiyin and Jia Tuyao looked at each other from afar. They also felt very surprised. However, as juniors, they were also not contestants who had experienced the same situation. Therefore, they did not dare to open their mouths to refute. They could only think that their grandpa must have his own reasons for saying this. After all, their grandpa had always been very fair. He would not deliberately cheat for the sake of favoring someone. When Jia Muzhen, who was on the other side, heard this, he was also confused. However, Xiao Qin had a very calm look on his face. Just now, although Jia Shouxing and Jia Rinzhong seemed to have landed at the same time, he could see the subtle difference. Jia Rinzhong used a lot of strength to pull Jia Shouxing. Therefore, Jia Shouxing's acceleration was faster than Jia Rinzhong's, causing him to land before Jia Rinzhong. It was probably because of this that the old patriarch decided that Jia Rinzhong was the winner. Sure enough, Jia Jinyan unhurriedly opened his mouth and said, "Although you were pulled off the stage by Jia Rinzhong, according to the computer's analysis, your landing time was 0.1 seconds faster than his. Because you landed first, this round is your loss. The video and the data will soon be displayed on the big screen. If you have any questions, you can watch it yourself." After Jia Jinyan finished his explanation, he nodded to his trusted aide beside him. His trusted aide got the signal and immediately pressed a few buttons on the computer. Very quickly, the big screen played a slow-motion replay of Jia Rinzhong and Jia Shouxing falling off the stage. Moreover, it froze the moment when the two of them landed. Just like what Jia Jinyan said before, The video showed that Jia Shouxing landed first, followed by Jia Renzhong. Jia Shouxing was completely speechless. He wanted to defend himself, but he didn't know where to start. He didn't expect that he would lose in such a bizarre way. It was really hard to accept. Wasn't this King scam? Renzhong, well done. I didn't expect that you, who look like a simple and honest person, would secretly make a dirty move. Jia Muzhen patted Jia Renzhong's shoulder and joked with a smile. Hiss. Jia Renzhong was patted on the wound and felt a heart-wrenching pain. His face twisted as he said, Young Master Sen, I just didn't want to lose your face. Jia Muzhen came to his senses and hurriedly retracted his hand in embarrassment. He changed the topic and said earnestly, but what you did was a little risky. If you landed before him, then wouldn't your previous perseverance be in vain? Don't do stupid things next time. Jia Renzhong nodded and gritted his teeth. I know. Don't worry, young Master Mu Sen. Next time I will use my brain to think before I act. Speaking of which, Xiaoqin interrupted with slight surprise, I really couldn't tell that this martial arts arena is quite high-tech. There are actually so many hidden cameras installed. If it wasn't for the replay of the video on the big screen, I really wouldn't have noticed the positions of these cameras. After watching the video, Xiaoqin released his divine sense and confirmed the positions of all the cameras in the arena. He discovered that there were actually more than 20 cameras in the entire martial arts arena. He couldn't help but be surprised. Actually, these cameras aren't really used normally. It's only when there's a competition or sparring that they would all be turned on. If it's for normal monitoring, there would only be 2 or 3 of them. Jia Muzhen explained. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.